got root beer.
A little too much. Hey, Beth.
Set up meeting.
We seen you last time.
I watched it on TV.
Because it also has to blend together
All right.
This is what you
There we go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order tonight's Township of Bernard's Zoning Board of Adjustment. The first item on our agenda is the flag salute, so I'll ask everyone to stand. In accordance with the requirement of the open public meeting laws, notice of this meeting of the Board of Adjustment of the Township of Bernard's was posted on the bulletin board in the reception hall of the municipal building, Collier Lane, Basking Ridge, New Jersey. It was also mailed to the Bernardsville News in Whippany, New Jersey, the Courier News in Bridgewater, New Jersey, and it was also filed with the Township Clerk on January 5th, 2023, and it was mailed electronically to all those who had requested individual notice. The following procedure has been adopted by the Bernards Township Zoning Board of Adjustment. There will be no new cases heard after 10 o'clock tonight, and there will be no new testimony heard after 10:30 p.m. Ms. Keeper, can you do the roll call for us?
Certainly. Chairwoman Juniors,
I am here.
Ms. Bauman,
Here.
Mr. Cambria,
Here.
Mr. Kraus,
Here.
Mr. Pavlovsky.
Here.
Ms. Pakhtar. Here. Mr. Tancredi,
Here.
Mr. Halverson,
Here.
Ms. Herrera,
Here.
Mr. Sobieski,
I am here.
Mr. Quinn.
Here.
Mr. Schley.
Here.
And for the record, Ms. Kiefer is present. Chairwoman, you have a quorum. You may proceed.
Terrific, thank you, Cindy. Number 5 on the agenda is the approval of minutes that have been previously circulated for our meeting that was on February 8th, 2023. Is there any comments or edits to those minutes? Or we could hear a motion, please, to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Second. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tancredi.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Ms. Pakhtar, you will abstain? I abstained. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of resolutions. We'll start with Priscilla's Pantry, which was ZB 22027. Are there comments or edits on the resolution as drafted?
I do have one edit. I think that we discussed removing a open flag that was situated on the, I'll say front, front of the building near the road. And I'm not sure if that, how we phrase that in here, but maybe amend or
I-
add.
Yeah, it was
Exactly.
like the
Do we need
add-on
to
flag.
add or
I think it
specify
was
that?
stipulated by the applicant. I agreed with that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, we would just add that as a condition into the amended resolution. Okay, so that's the open flag on the,
Yeah, it was on the signage. There was an
Any-
extra.
I guess any additional.
Any additional flag signs, any additional
Okay.
signage, I think is,
Yeah.
would be removed from the property. Okay,
Yep.
all right, so with, all right, yeah, with that
I
edit.
agree with
yeah.
that.
And I would just point out for the board's, to the board's recollection, there was somewhat of an issue with getting the required notice for this application. We had set it as a condition prior to the adoption of this resolution that we would get affidavits of waivers of service from 2 utility companies. It's my understanding the applicant has satisfied that requirement, so with that being said, the board would, yeah, that condition's been satisfied.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Krause. Are there any other edits or comments on the Priscilla resolution? If not, I would entertain a motion to draft as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Pakhtar and Ms. Bauman?
Ms. Bauman,
Yes.
Mr. Cambria,
Yes.
Mr. Kraus,
Yes.
Mr. Pavlovsky,
Yes.
Ms. Pakhtar,
Yes.
Mr. Tancredi,
Yes.
Chairwoman Juniors.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe 6B, the Finley Real Estate, we are not voting on tonight, is that correct?
Correct. It's my understanding both the board and the applicant have some issues with how the the resolution was drafted, and there's some minor disputes over what was agreed to and what wasn't, what was concurred with and what wasn't, so.
Right, So it's not subject to minor edits at this point? So we
Correct.
are not going to vote on that one.
Right, and the-
Cindy, 6B, we'll carry that to the next one.
Correct.
Okay, 6C is the New Jersey American Water resolution. On 6C, I think there was both a letter circulated as well as a drafted resolution to dismiss without prejudice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on that letter or resolution? Otherwise, we'll take a motion. That one.
Make a motion to approve the resolution as drafted for New Jersey American Water.
Thanks, Ms. Bowen.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tancredi.
Ms. Baumann?
Yes.
Mr. Cambria?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Pavlovsky?
Yes.
Ms. Clocktar?
Yes.
Mr. Tancredi?
Yes.
Chairwoman Juniors?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 7A is the public hearing. This is for Kirsten Light, ZB 22026. This is a hearing that has been carried from February 8, 2023. Hello, Mr. Zelli.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, board professionals, Frederick Zelli, Millington, New Jersey, on behalf of the applicant, Kirsten Light. This is in fact a carryover from the November 9th meeting, which sounds like an awfully long time ago.
Sure does. I was thinking the same thing.
For the record, this is regarding 13 Victoria Drive, tax block 5001, lot 2. It's in your R4 residential zone. Just as a recap, this is a pool project that kind of went amok. We ended up with a significantly larger patio area than we thought, and more importantly, the original engineering plan didn't seem to quite comply with reality, so to the extent that it was built in accordance with that plan, it still ended up being larger and involving more coverage than was intended. There was also a minor setback issue. Instead of 10 feet from the pool, we have 9.3. So, 19.3 instead of 20. I'm sorry, I knew I was saying that wrong as I heard myself saying it. Okay. So, the board had sent us back to the drawing board really for two purposes. One, there were concerns with the topography of the property. Mr. Hollows is here this evening, our engineer, and he will explain what has been found. I believe the board does have the topographical survey now showing the topo. You'll see that it's fairly flat, actually, but Mr. Hollows will testify to that. The other reason that we were decided to postpone this a little bit is we did have a neighbor objecting with some concerns with water encroaching onto their property. It was the opinion of Mr. Hollows that it was unlikely that that really was coming from our property, but we wanted to confirm that, and that's one of the reasons that the board was looking for the topo. It's my understanding from our applicant, who is here this evening and can testify, that the neighbor does not wish to pursue that. Any further objection, I do not think she is here, correct? But I will have Ms. Light make some record as to that conversation that she's had with that neighbor. And that's pretty much it. That's why we're back. So unless there's questions for me, I'll have Mr. Hollows take over.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Bill?
Madam Chair and board members, just for the record, because this is a continued hearing and Mr. Hollows was sworn in at the November 9th meeting, he remains under oath, as do our board professionals and the applicant, Ms. Light. If they want to present any additional witnesses who we haven't heard from already, they would need to be sworn in fresh at this point in time, so. It's all you, Mr. Hollows.
We had, in the time since the last meeting, topography was done on this subject property, because there were some questions from board members whether this was built in accordance with the original plan. And after reviewing the topography, it's very, very close to what was designed and what the building permit was given out to back in, I guess, sometime in 2021. But the drainage patterns haven't changed. It goes out towards, that gravel pit from the pool. And also, there's a low point behind the deck area, and there's an inlet there that collects the water. And my understanding is that's tied to that gravel pit that we spoke about at length in the previous meeting. So that is really what we've done, and like I say, it's very, very close to what was designed. The 268 contour matches very closely to, and that's the top of the ground around the pool. Matches that very closely to the original design.
Mr. Hollows, just to be clear, when you talk about the original design, you're referring to grading at this point, correct?
I'm referring to grading, yes, and that,
Not to
was
the shape of the patio and things like that.
no, I mean, no, not the shape of the patio, and not talking about coverage, we're just talking about the topography.
And even though the neighbor is not here this evening, just for the board's edification, is it still your opinion that whatever water issues they may have on that adjoining lot, and for the record, that was lot 44, correct? Okay.
Which is somewhere over
Off
to
of
the
that road.
southeast on this site. The majority of the water actually goes towards, it's going to pipe towards that gravel pit, either by overland flow from one side of the pool or from the side of the pool behind the deck. There's an inlet there, and that carries the water over to the gravel pit. There's a little bit of area behind the shed that goes, I guess, in the southeast direction, but it's not a large area. It's kind of that triangular piece at the top of the property, kind of an odd-shaped property.
So does it remain your professional opinion that any issues they may be having are not caused, or at least not largely caused, by anything on our lot?
I would say that, and I think, again, that probably was the way the water went prior to this development, in that general direction out toward Annan Road. But as I had indicated, most of this pool area and impervious coverage area actually goes towards that gravel pit, one way, either overland flow or through a pipe.
In your opinion, does any additional water flow from this project, the pool, the rocks, anything there, is any additional water flowing in the direction of lot 44, back towards that triangle?
There's a little bit that comes off but it's just natural grade. It's not the grade from the pool, it's just natural grade back there.
So you think the amount of water that's flowing towards that back lot is exactly the same? It was unaffected by this project, is that what you think?
If there's additional, it's very de minimis.
We had a question, I think, back in November about the sub pumps that discharged one side of the house, and I think we questioned where they went, if they went into the storm sewer, and I don't think we had an answer for that. I don't know if it was ever answered, that question.
I don't have that answer.
It exits in the street. I visited the property, and it exits through the
Can you
curb.
speak into the microphone so we can hear you better? Thank you.
It exits to the street, right, directly out from that corner of the house, so.
Can the owners verify that?
Yes.
There was discussion at the last hearing too about the gravel pit as to what it discharged to, and did it have any piping associated with it?
No, it's just a gravel pit in the ground. It
That's
doesn't
all it
pipe
is.
out.
Do you think there is a need for piping from the gravel pit to the storm sewer, or you think that it just naturally settles back into the, recharges into the ground through the stone area?
Well, I think last meeting I indicated I lived in that neighborhood for quite a few years, and I don't remember a problem, and I used to walk around Victoria out to Annan and back to my home on Granville Way, and I just don't remember seeing ponding water there. I mean, it might be after a storm. I mean, I think it's kind of indicative of that neighborhood, because I had some ponding water, but it would normally go away within a couple of days.
So it seems to me, looking at the topographic survey, that the water sort of naturally would flow whether it's de minimis or not, it would flow sort of to the back of the shed and to the, is that the north side of the property. I'm wondering if there's any benefit to putting a drain behind the shed, or perhaps, I see why it's necessary between the pool and the house, but I'm wondering if maybe there's one that's necessary either behind the shed or somewhere closer to the adjacent property.
If I could comment, I visited the lot in question here for the applicant, and I think the topographical surveys show the grade plan that was submitted for the pool construction to be at an elevation of 98 feet, .0.
I'm sorry, you're correct. It's a,
And
they used
The current
it,
one is 98.9, which is about almost 11 inches, correct?
that's the pool deck.
It's 11 inches higher than the
Well,
original plan was.
I'm not sure that that's true, because I can't tell from the original design of, when the building permit was obtained, I don't know whether that's the water surface or whether it's the top of the coping. So it would either be 9 inches or 5 inches.
Yeah, I interpret the drawing, and I'm not a civil engineer, but I am an engineer, and it shows the top of the coping at 98.1. And the other thing that I think was obvious in the pictures, it showed a change in elevation from the patio surrounding the house to the pool deck. There's a step there, and the height of that step is 10 inches. So the pool height has to be at least 10 inches higher than the patio. There's a step there, it's in the photos.
Having done dozens of these kind of plans, it doesn't surprise me that when the contractor's out there doing this, that he doesn't put a step in here, or he doesn't put a step in there, doesn't make a little bit of a change. It's just the nature of the business. It's not quite like building a building where you want to take. But what I was trying to say before is that the drainage patterns don't change. The water still goes to the inlet that's behind the deck, and it still goes towards the gravel pit, across the driveway. So even though if it's a little higher, it goes the same, where it was designed to
No,
go.
it's now created a plateau. The pool surround is the highest elevation in the yard, correct?
Well, it would have been before, because you don't want the overland flow from the adjoining land to go into the pool. You want it to go away from the pool.
I guess the point I'm trying to say is that it appears to me that the pool was constructed 10 inches higher than the original plan, and I see that when I walk to the yard. Now, this lot number 4, lot number 1, I think it's called.
It's actually
The guy to the
44.
right there, that's a swamp land. That's the problem. That there's standing water there, a few inches deep, and that's not going away. That's a source of a groundwater problem. I mean, it's not percolating, it's sitting there.
That may be the case, but I can only go from the knowledge I have as far as my 23-plus years living in the neighborhood.
So if I could just take it back then. So I can see the difference in elevation between the pool and the deck. The yard drains are perfectly placed for protection for the house from what I'm looking at on this survey. What concerns me is that behind the pool, heading towards the shed, it definitely drops in elevation. So there is going to be some water that is going to go towards the property that we know has standing water and is a swampland. So my only question is, would there be any benefit to putting some sort of a catch basin back there so that there isn't any additional water that's being pushed into the neighboring property that could be potentially pushing into the neighbor's property who was here the last time, I forget their names.
Target?
Target.
Yeah.
I was thinking Pepper, Target.
They sell pepper at Target, so you're not too far off.
Because I think the entire length of the adjoining property to Lot 1 is a lower elevation, right? I believe as you go from the top of the triangle here all the way to the street, you're looking at a 97-foot elevation, right? Versus
Correct.
98 that's around the house and the pool.
The
So are we causing any issue? Tom, what do you think? Are we causing any issue that's heading towards the adjoining property?
Well, let me say initially, even with, I have the initial plan that was approved. That was exempt from stormwater because it didn't meet the threshold, right? But there were still several hundred square feet of impervious cover around that pool that were created. Bill is right. The drainage patterns from the as-built plan and the proposed plan match. So there always was going to be some incremental additional runoff going towards Lot 1, also going towards Lot 43, because those are two high side, again, as was pointed out, the pool's on a plateau. That's typically what you do anyway. In any yard,
Right.
you bring the pool
Sure.
up because you don't want water coming into it, so then the coping is the high spot, you slant away. That's all consistent. But the question is, since there's an impervious cover variance, does it warrant additional impervious cover in a mitigation, even though the drainage patterns are the same as they
Right.
were initially supposed to be on the, so I don't know how effective, and I'm not one for, the soils around here are always up and down around burners, right? So some of them are not very permeable. I don't know particularly about this area. Bill seems to know it better than I because he lived there, but if there's not a problem with the gravel pit that's at the one end of the property, and it works effectively to keep the runoff on his property and infiltrate slowly, maybe there's some merit to putting one in the area behind the shed, and in that area adjacent to Lot 1. Again, I don't know what his experience has been with this particular gravel pit, how effective it's been over time, but if it's been useful and functional, then maybe that is what wants to happen there. Because there will be incremental runoff going off.
Right.
I remember Mr. Hollows talking at the last meeting, saying that the ground was a very heavy clay soil, and it didn't drain, and that you didn't think the gravel pit was gonna do that much. And that's why we were wondering if there was piping in it going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there's two inlets that go into that.
Okay.
The problem with trying to get an inlet behind the shed is that the depth of the other inlets and then also the depth of the gravel pit are about the same grade, so there's not a lot of slope or very, very little slope to try to
Yeah,
carry pipe over.
you're not gonna, if, there's no sense, if the gravel pits are not working effectively, and the homeowner would know. It works great? If the pit's effective, then maybe that's the easy answer, is just to put some sort of linear feature along here. Doesn't have to be huge, but it will at least protect that side from whatever runoff was going to incrementally increase on that side anyway. But
Okay.
again, I think the hook here is that because we have an impervious cover variance now, maybe, we need to look at this a little more closely.
All right.
Would that be something the applicant would be willing to stipulate to, working with the engineer to add an additional catch basin?
What we'd actually like to do is have the applicant's husband testify on his personal observations of the drainage on the property, which might answer some of the board's questions.
Okay, fantastic.
So when we're finished with Mr. Hollow's testimony, I will call him as an additional witness.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Mr. Hollis, could I just ask you, just with respect to the rocks, where did we end up? Are the rocks impervious coverage? Where did we end up on that, Mr. Sly? The decorative rocks. Did we count that as
Yeah,
impervious?
we would not, if it's a natural occurring feature, like a boulder, whether it's located where it originally was, or whether you move it around or bring it into the property, we typically don't count that.
But
Unless it's actually used as something, like it's a big flat boulder that's used for seating or a patio or anything, but if it's just part of the landscape, decorative or whatever, like may as well, in a planting area, we wouldn't count that.
Would you recommend this be counted? Because what I'm looking at in this picture is not just a boulder. I mean,
This was a man-made
it looks pretty
thing that was
substantial
brought in,
and
it was not an
manufactured.
original feature.
There was
Talking about the water
testimony,
feature.
though, that is not sitting on on concrete, that it's sitting on natural ground. I believe that was a pivotal issue at the time.
I mean, if it's landscaping comprised of plant materials and rocks, as long as the rocks aren't arranged in any kind of, you know, patio-like way, that we wouldn't count that under normal circumstances. I don't know what would make this different. Maybe the rocks are bigger or, you know, but we don't really.
Did we see the rocks were on dirt?
That was the testimony, yes.
Yeah, the pictures I'm looking at are a pile of rocks,
Yeah.
essentially. I mean, as long as they're, well,
Put it diplomatically.
if they're not used for anything, if they're not, you know, if this was a bigger and they created like a patio-type surface that's actually gonna be used, you know, for whatever, I don't know, put a chair up there, or, I don't know, if it was part of the pool, you know, that would be different, but, like I said, it's basically considered natural landscape area, you know, because if we start counting rocks in everybody's yard, you know, that just gets out of hand. That's not to say this may be totally pervious, but from a calculation standpoint, we don't count it.
Uniform.
Does it add, is it positive for the water or negative for the water?
I mean, it's hard to say. It depends what's underneath it. It'll take,
No.
water will actually, believe it or not, it'll cling to the surface of the rock, it'll run around slower. I mean, it'll impact it in some way. I think it's really marginal.
Okay. And I think, Mr. Zelli, we heard that the rocks are decorative, right? No purpose.
I specifically, as long ago as it was, I specifically remember that testimony, and I remember some pushback as to whether it was in fact sitting on land as opposed, on soil as opposed to concrete.
It's not a waterfall of any kind, right? There's
It's
no
not.
circulating water or anything going down it?
There is a pipe that goes up that waterfalls draining directly into the pool, but the rocks itself are sitting directly on dirt. There's no,
But then how does the water stay in there to slide down? Is it filled with concrete? Is there a membrane?
there
How
is
does
a plastic membrane that keeps the water focused towards the pool. But only
That's
in
not
the,
dirt then, right?
but only
Yeah,
in the
if
middle.
it's
but
a
only in the
waterfall
middle
or a
section.
fountain
Only
type
in
thing.
one
Water surface
section
of the pool,
going up right in the
How
middle
wide
of
would you
it.
think?
Yeah.
How wide by how long
Yeah.
roughly?
Probably this big,
Foot?
Less than a foot?
less,
In
6
width?
inches. 6 inches, a pipe going directly up that propels the water directly from the pool filter area. It goes up the pipe and it comes out the rocks and shoots directly back into the pool.
So the purpose of the rocks is to,
It's decorative.
and to hold the waterfall that's spilling into the pool.
Yeah, exactly,
And Ms. Light, just for the record, you do understand that you're still under oath from the
Correct.
first meeting?
yes,
And you understood that when you testified a moment ago?
yes, I did.
Mr. Hollows, did you have occasion to read Mr. Schley's February 27th report?
I did, and I think it's very similar to the original report with the addition of the topography that we did.
Is there anything else that we need to comment on in response to his comments?
My report, which is dated February 27, 2023, it's not really stating anything new other than updating what was in my last memo and what occurred at the last meeting. Items 1 through 6 are what I would consider factual. Item 7 is what I summarize as things that were already agreed to, that if the application were approved, that they would be conditions of approval. So if the applicant's agreeing to comment number 7 in my memo, that's all I have to say about my report.
And for the record, we do concur with those conditions. Those are accurate.
Okay. And also for the record, the applicant is willing to stipulate to not only this, Dave's 2/27/23 memo, but also his November 7, 2022, and Mr. Quinn's November 7, 22 memorandum, all the comments, recommendations set forth therein, to the extent not already addressed, satisfied, or otherwise.
We stand by our original testimony as to those,
Okay,
yes.
fantastic, thank you.
Does the board have any additional questions for Mr. Hollis? Does the public have any questions for Mr. Hollis at this time?
And Madam Chair, I would like to call Frank Schweihart as an additional witness.
Sir, could you raise your right hand, please? I swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. And just for the record, your name and address, please, clearly into the mic so we can have it.
Frank Schweihart. It's 13 Victoria Drive.
How do you spell your last name?
It's long. SCHWEIGHAR, D as in dog, T as in Tom.
Okay.
Schweihart.
I understand your problems.
Ms. Kiefer, can I just ask you, are we still okay up there? I just want to make sure.
This is, it's my understanding that this is the broadband. This is the one area that we are still not broadcasting on. We are broadcasting on FiOS, and it is going to YouTube, so that's why that is
Perfect,
not on
okay.
difference.
Just checking, sorry about that.
I have tried watching the meeting on FiOS, and I tried the last meeting, and it was not on.
Okay, then I'll report that to
Alright.
Which
IT.
solves this.
All right, we'll take that
Yeah.
offline, okay, sorry. You swear me?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
Yep, give him his address, he's good to go.
Mr. Schweihart, just for the record, you are married to the applicant, is that correct?
Yes.
And you live at 13 Victoria as well?
Yes.
And have you personally observed the property and particularly the drainage aspects of the property?
Yes. I know a lot more about drainage now than I did 5 years ago.
Would you share your observations with the board, please?
So basically, when we moved in, our backyard was pretty much unusable after it rained. I mean, the water would just pond up there, the dogs would go out, the house was just a muddy mess every time they went out. So we put the drainage system in, and that works great. I mean, I was physically there when he dug it, so it's basically any questions about the drainage system, I can give you the answer. There's 4-inch PVC that's tied to 2, drainage basins. On top of that, I take the gutters from the back of the house to get the water away from the house, because every time it rained, the sump pump would go on a lot, which I wanted to try to get as much water as possible away from the house. So the low point in my property is right next to that driveway where the rocks are. So naturally, the water goes towards the drainage basins and out to the stone bed. So when we get a lot of rain, the stone bed fills up, and then within hours to a day, however long it may be and how much rain we get, then it seeps down into the ground. So most of that water from the backyard is getting pushed to that side of the driveway.
And do your leader drains that you said they also tap into the same system, is that right?
From the back of the house, yes. The front, they still go, dump right next to the house. I mean, I put like 5-foot extensions or something from Home Depot just to get it a little bit away from the house.
But the rear go into the same system and end up in the same stone area, is that correct?
Yes.
And where does your sump pump discharge?
It discharges I have 2 sump pumps. So one discharges right on the side of the house,
Which side, sir?
facing the house from the street to the right. So one discharges there, but that one never goes on. That's the backup sump pump. The main sump pump, that discharges right through the front yard onto the street.
Through piping or just naturally runs in that direction?
Through PVC piping.
And then that ties into the storm sewer?
Yeah, because it goes out onto the street. So then there's a sewer, I don't know, right down the street, there's a sewer, and the water goes down into that.
I'm just asking, does it travel along the street down to it, or is it actually tied in?
No, it travels along the street.
Okay. And what, if anything, has been your observation as to water going in the area that the board has raised in the triangle behind the shed? Have you noticed any water draining in that area?
I mean, no, because we have a berm of, hemlock trees and magnolia trees and stuff, so the water would have to go up and over that. The low spot is, on that side of the property, the low spot is kind of to the right of the fence. There's in between our three houses, I guess, there's, a wooded area. The issue back there is, I don't know if any of you guys know about these ash trees, but I got about 20 ash trees back in that area. They're not mine, but they're dead. I mean, I never heard of an emerald ash borer until I bought this house. And then, I had Kyling doing some tree work, and he goes, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but, in the next couple of years, you're going to have to take down about 15 trees. And I was like, what? So, to that side, I mean, one reason the water sits there is because, 5 years ago it was once a nice, lively, wooded area is now a lot of dead trees. So water does sit in there, depending on how much rain we get, and, it usually a day or two it goes away. It's not standing water for a week. It's not like a pond back there, but, I mean, it does sit back there. But in this neighborhood, it's a high water table. There's shale, it sits all over the place for a day.
Has that observation of that water standing, or that standing water, changed since the installation of the pool, or was it the same way before the pool was installed?
No, the same amount of water sits there as always. I mean, that's the low spot on that side.
And is that spot actually on Lot 1? Is it on your property? Is it on Lot 44? And if you need to
I
see-
think that's technically 1 Victoria Drive. I don't know how to tell the lot numbers.
I can show you the, we have a microphone here if you want to just come over. For the record, the board, I'm showing him the key map on the first page of the plans.
So yeah, the low spot sits like in the back of Lot 1, like behind his house.
So more or less in the area where it literally says Lot 1 on the key map?
Yes. Maybe there, even a little bit further up.
And it sat there before the pool was built, and it sits there now, is that what you're saying?
Yes, water always sat there. It depends on how much rain we get too. I mean, if we get, a quarter inch, a half inch of rain, there's no water that's gonna sit. I mean, if we get, that storm we had, what's that, a year and a half ago, I mean, water's gonna sit there. It's not, if we get a foot of snow, when it melts, water's gonna sit there for a day. It's, I mean, it's not like it drizzles and it sits there. I mean, the water would have to dump, and then it sits there for a day, and then it disappears.
Do you know how deep your gravel pit is? You said you saw them dig it.
That's probably about 4 or 5 feet.
It is that deep, and there was no groundwater? They didn't hit water that depth? Because you said it was shallow.
I don't recall. I couldn't
Okay, I
tell
mean,
you.
you either saw it or you didn't. You said you saw when they were digging, so I didn't know if you saw it or not.
I mean, I was watching them dig. I didn't really take a peek in. Like
Okay.
they dug it with a little backhoe machine, and they dumped the big rocks in there.
Right, but it is that deep. You're sure it's that deep, 5 foot, 4 feet?
I don't think it's 5. I mean, I'd probably say, what's this, 3 to 4?
Yeah, 3 to 4 sounds more
3,
like it. Yeah.
probably. 4, 5 would be, 5 would be a little high.
And you
It's
say
probably
it-
3.
And it drains within a day or two, usually? Or you don't?
Yeah.
You
You
don't
don't see it. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
it
how.
sets down, right.
I see the water come up, it floats on top of the stones, and then after it stops raining, within a couple hours, it starts going down, and then I'd imagine within a day, it's dry. I mean, it works, as was told, it should work, and I'm very happy with it, and I love that system, and I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, when I called the guy in, I wanted to get a dry well, and he's the one, he talked me out of it. He said, don't do that. They work for a year, and then they stop working. He's like, this is much better. So I love it. I mean, that was 4 years ago we did that, and I've had no issues with it.
Nothing further for this witness?
Well, here's the struggle. I think the board is trying to, because we're over impervious coverage, we're trying to limit the impacts on all adjacent lots, right? So any water you keep on your lot is a bonus.
So I know you had the one question about putting another basin between the shed or between the pool and my neighbor's property. I would have no issue with doing that. I mean, even if I have to make that stone bed a little bit bigger to, bring a little bit more water into it, I have no issue with that. I mean,
I don't know, I don't wanna see you pipe this is what I'm trying to figure out. I don't wanna see you have to pipe it all the way to that trench.
No, I would only have to pipe it to the one
Well,
first
right, if you
basin.
did a little trench, near the kink of the property here, right? So
From,
nobody's gonna know what,
Yeah, I believe,
so,
I'm saying from the one basin between,
so let me help you. I'm talking about the northwest side of the property, right? The northwest side of the property. You have runoff contribution from the easterly side of the pool and also the westerly side of the paver patio that's heading towards Lot 1. Perhaps something, maybe not as big as here,
that's what I'm
but
saying, I
something.
could tie that into the system easily because I already have a basin over there with 4-inch pipe.
I don't think you can tie it in because of the depth of the
Yeah.
inlets and depth of the pipe.
Yeah.
You'd have to redo it.
We're just talking about making a separate little trenched area along here, something maybe linear that will take the water, accept the water, and have it sit and percolate on your property, right? Probably not as big as something over here, but something similar.
It's not piped, right?
Yeah,
You
you're talking
just-
about
you
something
just-
with-
No, it's not piped, it's just gonna take runoff
I have
from
no
the,
problem. Yeah, that's fine.
right, then you're not worried about inlets and piping, because you've got inlets and piping everywhere. This will take, it looks like it'll take the natural runoff from a good portion of that paver patio at the northwest side of the house, and the easterly side of the pool patio that's heading off towards Lot 1. Looks like it'll take that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm a solution guy. I mean, you
All
guys
right. No, I
tell me
appreciate
What
that.
you want done, and I'll get it done.
I appreciate that.
so what
I'd have no problem digging that out, 2-3 feet,
Right.
putting stones and, any water.
So what I suggest is that let Mr. Hollows propose the size of the structure to me in a detail, and I'll review it, and then we'll move forward from there, but.
Okay. Is the applicant willing to stipulate the such condition? Her name's on the application, so I'm asking.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Is that it for me? I
Depends
mean,
on if
anybody
anyone
have
else
any
has
other
any
questions?
questions. I'm done, but the public might or the board
Um,
might.
Anyone from the public want to question Mr. Schweihart? Schweihart?
Schweihart.
Schweihart. How
By
it
the way,
goes,
this
man.
is why my last name is Light.
I don't blame you.
Not part of testimony.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Light, with last name Light. You've already agreed to that stipulation. Would you also just describe to the board the conversation that you did have with the neighbor who had been here the last time? You can speak at this mic.
Okay. I was able to, in the context of one of the Board of Education BT Connect meetings, our neighbor, we had tried to reach out to the neighbor to get them to come over and see so that we could do everything we can to calm their concerns. With that, they did not take us up on that offer. However, Kelly Target approached me after the BT Connect meeting in February. I think it was February 13th. It was a Monday night in February. And she approached me after the meeting and said that she was not going to pursue the issue any further, and she got comfort from the meeting beforehand in November.
And just for the record, that's Kelly Target and her husband, Michael Storch, owners of Lot 44.
Yes, I did not speak to Michael Storch, but I did speak to Kelly Target, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, any,
Any additional questions from the board?
public questions for Ms. Light, while she's here? I don't see any, Mr. Chairman.
Suzanne?
We have no further testimony to offer.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to make a comment about this application?
Going once, going twice?
Yeah, none.
You're out of here, okay.
Mrs. Elliott, is it over to us, or are you going to do a summation? or-
I'll do just a brief summation.
Okay.
Obviously, we're dealing with two bulk variances, one for impervious coverage and one for the minor setback issue from the pool over to the one sideline. Actually, rear line, I should say. So with regard to the impervious coverage, to some degree, it's a C1. We have a slightly undersized lot, but admittedly, even if it were a fully conforming lot, we would still be over in coverage. But there is a C1 aspect to it, but primarily it's a C2. Obviously, it's a gorgeous pool. You've seen the photographs. That benefits the community as a whole. It improves the housing stock. improves land values. So there's a benefit to that. The only potential detriment would be exactly what we've talked about, and it looks like we've reached a resolution in dealing with any drainage issue that may be created by the pool. Obviously, some question as to whether it even is. But either way, the stipulations are addressing that issue. So under a C2 analysis, the benefit outweighs the detriment, since we're now hopefully without detriment at all. So we thank you for hearing us twice, and we would appreciate a positive vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's over to the board. Obviously, we've, two different meetings on this one. I appreciate doing the additional work, Ms. Light, on the topographical study, which should help inform the board. And we've heard additional testimony, so kind of open to deliberations or comments and/or motions. Anybody wants to kick us off?
I'll kick us off. I mean, we heard from Mr. Hollows. He did live in the neighborhood. He is a professional engineer, and the drainage is a challenge in this neighborhood. There's no perfect situation, recommendation that you could give to give 100%, mitigation of the water. But having the stone basin on the east side retains the water on the property, so that's a benefit. The applicant willing to do one on the northwest side is definitely appreciated. We're always in a difficult position when someone comes after the fact, when things are done by contractors, and it's been an ongoing thing over the last few years, and we get tired of hearing it, and it puts us in a tough spot. But it is within character of the neighborhood. It is a very nice pool, and I think the benefits outweigh the detriment. The pool itself will retain a lot of water. So I would see it as C2.
Okay, Mr. Tancredi, any other comments?
I think the additional drainage basin does
Please
that.
speak. Sorry, can
I'm
you-
sorry,
Hard to hear you,
I
sorry.
think I also think the additional drainage to be added, to be designed by Mr. Hollow, adds quite a bit to solving the problems on the property. So I would agree that it is a C2 variance, so I would be in favor of it. Any other comments from anybody?
Ready for a motion if no one else has
Any
comments?
other comments?
I don't know if the board would want me to go through the conditions, but they're all,
Yes,
we
please.
might as well, right? Okay. So, kind of operating off of Mr. Sly's memo, I'll start with the first one. Plans will be revised to clarify why the rocks near the pool and stone area southeast of the driveway are not included in the lot coverage calculations. I think we've established that already, but let's put it on the plans anyway. Plans to be revised to specify that the proposed coverage subtotal is 6,618 square feet, not 6,648 square feet. Existing driveway, piers, and columns shall be removed or relocated out of the township right-of-way after obtaining applicable permits. Lighting in the pool/patio area, if any, shall be directed downward or otherwise shielded, so glare, direct light, or reflection will not be a nuisance to adjoining properties. Applicant shall utilize the quote-unquote best management practices when discharging pool water, consistent with the recommendations of the Township Environmental Commission, which will be attached. And also, applicant has agreed to abide by the conditions and recommendations in Mr. Quinn's November 7th, 2022 memorandum, and Mr. Schley's November 7th, 2022, and February 27th, 2023 memorandum. And of course, the big cheese here, Mr. Hollis is going to design an additional stormwater accoutrement somewhere on the northwest side of the property that will remain subject to the review and approval of Mr. Quinn. Of course, with the goal being there to mitigate any other potential runoff problems that might be associated with the pool. And I believe that's it, unless anyone else had something I missed.
Well, I guess I'll make one more comment. This one's a challenging one for me, personally. I am thankful that the applicant is stipulating 2 additional drainage, because that's been a challenge, I think, for the board. I think, on this application specifically, it is in a challenged water area. I'm not sure that it would have been approved had you come first and asked us, given that the area in and of itself is already so challenged. And, it's difficult personally for me to understand how the construction can vary so much from the original plan of 3.5 feet uniformly around the pool to all of a sudden, we've got to bump out and we've got other things. So I'm not so sure that had you come and asked first, that this would have been approved. Certainly not without additional drainage, maybe with additional drainage. And I agree that I wouldn't consider it under a C1.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other comments or motions?
Just to say that I agree. It really does. It puts us in a tough position at this point in time. I do appreciate the additional drainage. I have some concerns about how it all came about to begin with. So I have to say I agree.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful design, there's
It
no
is.
doubt. It's a beautiful backyard, but, at the same time, we have to make sure that, it's not just benefiting you, like, it's not hurting anybody else. And that's why, that was the nature, I think, of a lot of different questions in a lot of different areas, because obviously, the entire town is our, constituents here. Okay. Motion time.
Then I move to deem the application complete and advise our board attorney to draft a resolution memorializing our decision to grant the sought relief, subject to the stipulations agreed to by the applicant.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cambria. So that was Tancredi and Cambria.
Alrighty. Ms. Baumann?
Because I think that you are willing to put the additional drainage in, which will, and because the drainage that is on the property now is potentially helping, I'll say yes.
Mr. Cambria?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes?
Mr. Pavlovsky?
Yes?
Ms. Pakhtar?
Yes.
Mr. Tancredi?
Yes.
Chairwoman Janeers?
Yes, and I make the same comment with respect to the drainage, so that is appreciated and important.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next up on the agenda is 8A, which is a completeness and public hearing for Stephen Rial, if I said that correctly. If not, I apologize. ZB 23001.
Before we start, I have a question. Is this property at 61 or 71 Long Road?
We're
Because-
going to ask, we're going to
Yeah,
ask.
because
So
it's two
we will-
different
we will find
and
out.
I drove there and I
Okay,
could not
hang on one
find
second.
71.
We're going to ask.
Because there's no number for it. I couldn't find a place to go to that.
Okay. So I believe we have, are you the applicant, sir?
What's that?
Are you the applicant, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
Stephen Rial.
Rial? Thank
Do you have, I'm assuming this
My
gentleman is
engineer,
testifying on behalf?
Michael Roth.
Okay, do you have any other witnesses, anyone else who'll be presenting testimony tonight?
That's it.
Okay, so I need to swear both you gentlemen in, as well as our board professionals, before we get started. If you could all raise your right hands when you have the chance. Perfect. Now, do all of you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony you're about to provide?
I do.
Okay, fantastic, thank you very much. If you could, sir, just your name and address for the record.
Yes, Steve Rial, 45 Pond Hill Road, Baskin Ridge. Been a resident about 12 years.
Could you just try to speak into the mic as best as possible? I know it's tough sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I've been living there about 12 years ago. I built my home. Yeah, came to this building before with different people. And now it's time to move on. and build another house, something smaller, easy to get in due to medical issues. This one will suit our needs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Do you want to, you going to take us through
Yes.
the case and why you're here and what you're asking for?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
My name's Michael Roth from Roth Engineering LLC, and I'm here to present the application tonight. We're going to start by,
Sir, if you could.
You're welcome.
Sure. So as an expert, we need to understand your qualifications. If you could just run us through your credentials.
absolutely. I'm the owner of Roth Engineering LLC and have worked on many projects just like the one I'll be discussing tonight. I graduated with a bachelor's degree of science in civil engineering from NJIT. I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, and my license is in good standing. I've appeared before a number of land use boards previously. However, this is my first appearance before this board, and I look forward to presenting tonight.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. We will
Thank you.
accept you.
All right, I was just going to ask, beat me to the punch. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start by presenting sheet 1 of 3 of the plot plans. Let me get it up on the screen here.
And this is the exact same thing you'd submitted ahead of time with the application?
Correct, this is
Okay.
part of the submission package, so I
Okay.
will not mark it. Is
All
that
right,
okay?
fantastic. Yep, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So just to reference this plan, it's entitled cover sheet / site preparation plan dated January 4th, 2023, last revised January 30th, 2023, to orientate the board with the property. North is to the right of the page, east is on the bottom where Long Road abuts the property, south is to the left, and west is to the top of the page. Starting with a overview of the project, the subject property is Lot 15 of Block 11501, located at 71 Long Road. The lot has an area of 3.1 acres and is located in the R3 zone district. The property contains various structures, including the dwelling that faces Long Road, detached garage, and other accessory structures. The location of the detached garage is pre-existing non-conforming, as it is 4.8 feet over the southern side property line and is contained within an easement. Access to the property is from Long Road via a shared driveway that also provides access to Lot 14 to the north, which is 61 Long Road. The existing driveway starts on the subject property, then crosses onto Lot 14, comes back onto the subject property to provide access to the upper portion of the lot. The existing driveway is pre-existing non-conforming with respect to its width, grade, and setback. The property contains steep slopes which result in an existing improvable lot area of 17,289 square feet, which is pre-existing non-conforming, as 22,000 square feet is required. And I'd like to note that the existing improvable lot area is based on Long Road being the front yard, the north and south property lines being the side yards, and the west property line being the rear yard. The site has an existing impervious coverage of 7%, which complies with the maximum 15% requirement. I'm going to now flip to the proposed conditions, which is going to be sheet 2 of 3. And since it's part of the submission package, I will not mark this plan. And let me update it on the screen for everyone. The project is proposing a new single-family dwelling, which is a permitted use in the R3 zone district, along with a new on-site driveway, walkway, deck, and patio. The new dwelling is proposed to face the north property line. Therefore, the north property line is the front yard. Long Road, which is the east property line, is also a front yard. The west property line is a side yard, and the south property line is a rear yard. The proposed dwelling complies with the front yard setbacks, as 101 feet is proposed to the north, 260.8 feet is proposed to the east, where a minimum of 100 feet is required. The dwelling complies with the side yard setback as 132.1 feet is proposed to the west, which complies with the 50-foot minimum requirement. The dwelling is set back 75.9 feet to the rear property line to the south, where a minimum of 100 feet is required. Therefore, a variance is being requested. The dwelling is positioned to face the north property line based on the location of the existing driveway and to fit in with the existing topographic conditions. The driveway enters the buildable part of the lot on the north property line, therefore the house is proposed in this location so that the front of the house is visible when entering the site. The existing grades on the property are sloping from the high side on the west to the low side on the east towards Long Road. The west face of the dwelling is the side of the house that meets the existing grade on the high side, and the east face of the house is a walkout basement that meets the existing grade on the low side. The rear of the house faces the southern property line, which provides access to more level land in the backyard and is adjacent to the rear yard of the properties that are on Cushing Drive. The project proposes to remove the existing structures except for the detached garage along the southern property line that is contained within an easement. Based on the new orientation of the dwelling, this structure is 4.8 feet over the south rear property line as opposed to the side property line, therefore a variance is being requested. It should be noted that the location of this structure is not changing. It is contained within an easement, but it's simply a fact that the orientation of the home changes, making the south property line now a rear yard. There is no change proposed to the driveway that provides access to the upper part of the lot. Therefore, there's no change to the pre-existing conditions that are related to the driveway. Next, although there are no changes to the lot itself, the setbacks for the property change based on the dwelling facing the north property line, which results in the proposed improvable lot area to be 6,752 square feet, where a minimum of 22,000 square feet is required, therefore a variance is being requested. The project proposes to disturb a small portion of slopes that are over 25%, as illustrated by the 4 small separate areas near the corner of the home. Therefore, variance is being requested. The project results in a proposed impervious coverage of 6.9%, which is a slight decrease in coverage from the current existing conditions and comfortably complies with the maximum 15% requirement. In summary, the project is requesting 4 variances, which include principal building rear yard setback, improvable lot area, accessory structure rear yard setback, and steep slope disturbance. Also, no changes proposed to the pre-existing conditions related to the driveway. I'm going to flip to a new plan entitled Plot Plan Rendering. And we update it on the screen here. Whoops. So this was not part of the submission package. Would you like me to mark this as A1?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, yeah.
I'll mark this A1 with today's date, March 8th, 2023. So this exhibit is entitled Plot Plan Rendering, dated March 6, 2023. It's at a scale 1 inch equals to 50 feet. The aerial map in the background is from October 6, 2022, and the subject property is outlined in red. The proposed improvements are rendered in color. So in seeking these C1 hardship variances, we start by looking at the positive criteria, which is the exceptional topographic condition and physical features that uniquely affect the property, being the location of the pre-existing driveway. The home orientation was designed to fit in with the topographic conditions and to face the driveway entering the buildable part of the lot, which is at the north property line.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Can you do me a favor, can you just point on here the driveway and the access to it?
Sure.
I see Long Road going across the bottom, I just
Yep,
want to make sure I
so this plan probably isn't the best depiction of the driveway. I'm gonna flip back to, because of all the vegetation. I'm gonna flip back to sheet 2 real quick. So the existing driveway starts on Long Road, somewhat in the central part of the lot, runs north and actually crosses over the property line, comes up and then back to the south to enter the property line on the northern side, on the north lot line to enter the site. So that's kind of the current arrangement of the existing driveway.
Okay, so the new plan just has the new kind of paved meeting into that existing driveway a little just further than it hits now.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
we're proposing to kind of pick up the driveway where
I
it
got it.
currently meets the buildable part of the lot. And this actually is a good plan to, just to touch upon the slopes, because we've depicted the steep slopes by the various colors. The pink shaded area is the 25% greater slope. Orange is 20 to 25, and the yellow is 15 to 20. So as you can see, the white areas, which are anything between 0 and 15, is the flatter areas on site. So the project was designed to develop that area, build in that area of the property.
So does the driveway service other properties as well, since it crosses the property line?
Correct. It's a shared driveway that also provides access to the neighboring lot.
Okay.
It's contained within an easement. One of Mr. Schley's comments was that there was some corrections needed to that easement, which the applicant is proposing to do.
Okay, so while we're on the topic, I might as well ask.
Yep.
So, if the board were to approve the application, would the applicant stipulate to remedying that easement either by judicial prescription or by, getting consent with the adjacent property owner and coming to an agreement and
Yes.
correcting it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Just want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Sure.
Where is the house on that property located? I think it's not shown on any of the drawings.
The neighbor's house here?
How am I to say that, the Township house, where's that house?
Where does the driveway go, continue to another house? I
So
guess
the
that's
other
what we're
house is further out here.
Okay.
That's
So
actually,
it goes up like this way?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that- yeah, it's up.
Let's see.
You can see it again. Look at the little
so the
drawings.
house, here's the driveway, it continues up, the house is located on this part of the parcel.
Okay. It's got a weird flag lot, sort of. Interesting.
Oh, let me update this one for you.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Sure.
The improvable lot area, that's based on areas of a certain slope, correct? It's less than 25%, or what?
Correct,
number?
it's based on the slope and also the setback.
Okay,
So the fact that we're changing the orientation of the house to face the driveway, so when you pull into the property, you could actually visually see the front of the house. It changes this setback from being a side yard to a rear
To a
yard.
rear
So that's why our improvable lot area got significantly truncated, although there's no changes to the lot itself.
how did the setback affect the improvable area? I'm not following that.
So the way the ordinance is written, it excludes, or, I'm sorry, it only includes area within the setback.
Okay.
So, let me flip back to this one, actually.
Yeah.
So this line here,
Right.
in existing conditions is actually over here because it's a side yard, but the fact that the home is facing the front makes this property a rear yard.
Right.
So that's how the improvable lot area changed from existing to proposed condition.
How does that, I still don't understand that. How does that affect 17,289 square feet down to 6,700?
It's the size of the building envelope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the side yards that are 50 on a house that will be facing Long Road, they become 100 and 100. So you lose 100 feet of the depth of the building envelope.
Oh, so it's got nothing to do with the steep slopes, it's got to,
No, the steep slopes since you're allowed to disturb a certain percentage of some of the steep slope categories, there's calculations that need to be made, no matter where the building envelope is, as to the steep slopes. That's gonna change a little bit, but, the big difference here is just the yard, the changing of the designated yards. The two sides become a front and a rear,
It's a calculation.
so they increase from 50 to 100.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah. It doesn't, in no way changes the amount of buildable land. It changes, obviously, there's a setback variance required now. It changes where you can put the house,
Right.
but it doesn't, it's just a line on the map after things are built. It doesn't mean anything for accessory structures and that kind of thing.
Sheet one is the existing conditions?
correct.
Can you just, I'm just having a little trouble getting my head around that. Can you just put that up there? And can you just explain for, I guess, my benefit, why is it 17,000 when it's, right, because on there, the improvable lot area is 17,000 square feet?
Correct, under
So-
existing conditions.
So can you just explain, why is it 17,000 there?
In existing conditions, the southern property line has a 50-foot setback. So although I don't show the buildable, the building envelope on here, it's essentially half of this. So this line here, in existing conditions, is actually here, because it's considered a side yard, it's 50 feet. And also this setback, which is 100, is actually 50 in existing, so it makes an awkward angle, but it's essentially half the distance between what's shown for this setback line. So the lot itself is not changing in any way, it's just the fact that the home faces the north property line, where we have a front, which is 100, and a rear, which is 100. As in existing conditions, it was a side of the side, so 50-50, so it's a significant decrease, just purely based upon the setback change.
Because of the change in the orientation of the house.
Correct, yeah, so that when you pull onto this side, you're actually could see and enjoy the home and look at the front of the house.
They lost all the side yard on the long side of the lot. That's why the improvable area got squeezed so much,
So that little boomerang piece in the middle is the only improvable lot
Right.
area.
basically.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this topic, or would you like me just to continue with my testimony?
I think you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roth, before we
Sure.
get going, will you be presenting planning testimony as well, or just engineering testimony?
Planning as well, yeah. I've
Okay.
already started to get into it a
Okay.
little bit.
Let me just get
I'll
your planning,
recap.
planning credentials as well, might as well. I think we
Sure,
got your
I'm-
engineer stuff.
Yeah, as stated in the introduction, I'm also a licensed planner. My license is in good standing.
Right.
I've appeared before other boards as a planner,
Okay,
professional
great.
planner.
So I think, would the board be willing to accept him as a planner as well?
We are willing.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Just wanted to
Sure,
just
thank
make
you very
sure.
much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll actually jump back to the beginning of that planning testimony. So again, to recap the variances, we have 4 variances. The rear yard setback, improvable lot area, accessory structure, rear yard setback, and steep slope disturbance. So in seeking these C1 hardship variances, we start by looking at the positive criteria, which is the exceptional topographic conditions and unique physical features that affect the property, which is the location of the pre-existing driveway. The home orientation was designed to fit in with the topographic conditions and to face the driveway entering the buildable part of the lot, which is the north property line. As a result, the south property line is considered a rear yard, where the majority of the house actually complies with the 100-foot rear yard setback, and only the southwest portion is over the setback line, which requires a variance. The variance for the improvable lot area and accessory structure are based on the changes to the setbacks, even though there's no change to the lot and no change to the accessory structure location. The variance for steep slope disturbance is based on the topographic conditions and home orientation, so that the proposed grading can meet the existing conditions. Next, in looking at the negative criteria, there's no substantial detriment to the public good, as the project is not out of character with the neighborhood. The project proposes a dwelling on a property that is within a zone that permits single-family dwellings. With respect to the south rear property line, the rear of the proposed dwelling is adjacent to the rear of the Cushing Drive homes, and there is significant buffering between the new home and the existing homes along Cushing as shown on the rendering. The map is on the screen. The proposed dwelling is approximately 250 feet to the closest dwelling on Cushing Drive and is separated by more than 100 feet of existing buffering. It should also be noted that if the home was facing Long Road, the ordinance would permit the dwelling to be up to 50 feet from the south property line, which would then be a side yard. Therefore, this proposal actually provides more privacy and distance to the southern property line, even though we are asking for a variance. The project greatly improves the property for the construction of this new home. The few trees that are required to be removed for the construction will be replaced at a ratio of greater than 1:1. The impervious coverage is being reduced, which improves the stormwater management for the project. Therefore, it is my opinion that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and it will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance. Finally, we have reviewed the board professionals' comment letters. I'll start with Mr. Schley's review memorandum dated February 27th, 2023. I reviewed the comments with Mr. Schley last week. Overall, we agree to comply with the letter. I'll touch upon a few that require testimony. Comment 5A, the project reduces impervious coverage to improve the drainage on the site, and erosion control measures are proposed in accordance with the project's approval from Somerset Union SCD. The architecture is designed to accommodate the topographic conditions as described in testimony. And 5B, the disturbance of steep slopes over 25% is shown in pink on sheet 2 of the plans, and it's 4 very small, minor, separate areas, and that disturbance is required to transition the grade to meet the existing conditions. Next, comment number 6, a walkout basement is proposed, and the project is proposing a patio under the deck that is in the same location of the deck, and the proposed dwelling with overhangs as shown on the coverage table includes the deck. Therefore, there's no changes to the impervious coverage. Next, comment number 7, sheet 1 of the plan shows 10 trees to be removed. 9 of the 10 trees have a caliper over 10 inches, and we're proposing 14 trees to be planted, which exceeds a 1:1 ratio. Number 10, as stated in the testimony, there is significant buffering as shown in the rendering, and based on the location of the proposed septic system and detached garage, there's limited room for tree plantings along the southern property line. And lastly, comment 18, the project received approval from Somerset Union Soil Conservation District per their January 27th, 2023 certification letter. I'd also like to note that we received approval from the Township Health Department for the proposed septic system. That was per their approval letter dated January 19th, 2023. Next, I'll move on to the board engineer's March 6, 2023 letter. Again, I coordinated with Mr. Quinn this week, and overall, we'd agree to comply with
Can I just ask a question about
Sure.
exercise? And I heard what you said at the top, that you're agreeing to everything that's in here, and you were just highlighting those for us. I thought there was the board should discuss, in Mr. Schley's memo, let me just find it. I just wanted, I don't know if we discussed it or not. 5C, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Did we discuss that?
Yeah, if you want to hit that now, the ordinance provides that when there are steep slopes over, in the steepest category, over 25% category, the board can require a conservation easement encompassing that area to prohibit disturbance, to prohibit deed restriction. In this case, I would think if the board were inclined to require an easement on this property, it would be where you have the big swath nothing's allowed to be done in that area anyway. You know, the only thing under the zoning ordinance that could be allowed if it weren't steep slopes would be a fence. And since they are steep slopes, you can't have a fence, so you can't disturb the area under the zoning ordinance anyway. It's in an area that's nowhere near what the active part of the property is gonna be. It's not like I wouldn't be too concerned with, you know, the disturbances related to the areas around the dwelling, kinda expanding out into prohibited area. So, I don't know to what extent the conservation easement is gonna serve in this case. But the board is, under the ordinance, entitled to request that from the applicant. That would be the area where I think the other areas are too small.
Too small.
To put easements on, but in some cases, adding more restrictions and clouding up the title of the property doesn't really do much more than that. That's something the board should discuss before we're done, if that's gonna be a condition.
Right, well, while we're on the topic, might as well ask, would the applicant be willing to stipulate to such a condition for a conservation easement in the event that they were to get an approval?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Mr. Schley. I think the ordinance kind of covers the steep slope areas that are greater than 25% slope, and it's far from the buildable part of the lot. We already are modifying the easement for the driveway. We also have a conservation easement for the stream buffering, so it's kind of another complication to the easement and record with the property. It would be our preference not to have a third layer to it, but again, it's, you know, we defer to Mr. Schley and the board members.
Okay.
Can I just ask a layman's question? Is if I purchase this property someday, would I know that then, if it's in the deed or in the record, versus being able to look up an ordinance and not follow a permit and dig up a slope?
These
Or
are people that come into
Yeah.
planning and zoning office.
No, I understand.
Either after the fact, that are surprised to find out that this property owner and the property owner next door bought the property within a driveway that's completely outside the easements that are there to provide for the driveway unknowingly.
Right.
So that happens all the time. So
Mhm.
to say that the owner of this property is gonna, well, number one, know that there's a restriction against disturbing steep slopes, and number two, know that there's a deed restriction against disturbing steep slopes. I would bet they're not, just on my experience of
Right.
seeing what people are aware of what they're buying.
Well, I look at it, but maybe not a lot of people look at it. Yeah, I
It
mean,
would come up in a title search.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, a title search, just a standard title search, it
Would
would
it get
come out.
pointed out in a standard title search?
Yeah.
You would think.
Would it,
Point it out to the
Most
actual
people don't even
person
know the
living
No,
there.
no, it would,
That's a whole other
no,
story.
so it would come out in a title search, and it would be provided to a purchaser, and it would be documented, and if they came to us, we could say, you received that as part of your purchase of the property, whether you read it or not, it was stated, versus, I didn't look up the ordinance, you know, which is a different cause or effect. right?
Yeah,
I'm just asking.
yeah.
Does that impact maintenance and care of the existing driveway that is going through that area?
Well, they can maintain the driveway, just can't move it, and they're not proposing to do that.
Right.
But I'm sure they have to replace gravel, and, you know, if they wanted to pave that or maintain it.
Yeah, would you be
Yeah.
allowed to pave it if it's in a conservation easement?
Yeah, that's actually in a stream buffer conservation area, which will become an easement. That's, I don't think there's a question about that. It's a pre-existing structure they're allowed to maintain, just like any nonconformity that's legally there. That driveway's been there, I'm sure, long before our ordinance. It's allowed to remain, just like it's allowed to remain crossing the property line. It exceeds the driveway slope that's allowed, all kinds of nonconformities there.
How wide is the driveway as it goes through there? It looks kind of narrow on this drawing. but
It
as
ranges.
I don't know the answer to that.
It ranges in width.
Yeah, the easement's, I think, 10 feet, 12 feet? Somewhere it says.
10 feet right there. So, the driveway's wider, 15.
As you enter, it's approximately 15, you know, at its narrowest point, it probably gets to 12 here on the bend, and when it approaches the property, it's 15, so I would say it varies, but on the part where you're really traversing the property, I would say it's a comfortable width of approximately 15 feet.
It's like a a moving truck or something to get up and down this driveway.
Correct.
Can I ask just one question about impervious prior to the, the change in impervious? Is it because the big all this gravel was impervious coverage before, and now that's being removed in the house and the driveway?
Correct.
Okay, so not much coverage from the, well, I'll say, buildings, but from the gravel area, I'll call it driveway, large gravel driveway that was on the property.
Correct. The main reduction was in the on-site driveway, although there's a number of structures that, in totality, when you add them up, was about 1,400 square feet. The dwelling is 3,000.
And just while we're on the topic, I think Mr. Kraus was referring to some of these photos. Who took these photos?
Which photographs are you referring to? These were the ones part of the submission package. So I took these during my site visit when I was introduced to the project.
And you would say they accurately depict the subject property as it currently exists?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
And did you take these as well?
Are those the same ones just blown up?
Oh, I have this together.
They're the same.
I believe so.
Okay, this is all included as
Sorry.
Okay.
one batch of pictures as opposed to.
So they were all taken together?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else on Mr. Schley's review memorandum?
Yeah, let me just, there were a few conditions that Mr. Schley had recommended. I just want to run through those. So conservation easement, you guys are open to that. We'll see if the board wants to impose that or not. I had tree replacement plan written down. I believe you did address the number of trees, but, would you guys stipulate to, just proposing something formal in writing to that effect, subject to the planner's,
Yes,
Within
and
approval.
the current plans actually do reflect a tree replacement that exceeds the 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah,
Okay.
the plan as shown would be fine and
Okay.
approvable, but I would leave the condition where it's subject to further review and approval at the
Okay.
time of permit, because sometimes things change.
okay, great. Thank you.
And we don't have specs on the size of the trees or anything like that, so that's.
Okay, great, thank you.
Did the environmental commission comment on it as well?
I believe it was a member here somewhere.
Yeah, the environmental commission's recommending native hardwood species where practical. I think I mentioned that too.
Okay, I guess I'll keep going here. So we have a tree replacement plan. Revise the plans to show, obviously, I'm just asking for stipulations, things you guys would agree to as conditions of approval. Revising the plans to show a silt fence limit.
What comment are you on?
I should have written down what comments these apply to. I took a list of all the,
I think you're on 8, yes.
That's number 8.
We'll comply with that.
oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so we got that one. Driveway easement on lot 14, we got that one taken care of already. Stream buffer easement, I believe that's number
12?
12,
We'll
yes.
comply.
The driveway easement, that applies to both lots, the neighbor's lot and the subject lot.
Right,
The
because
dri-
it's also technically
The
subject to this
reciprocal.
application. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Okay, so we did that one, stream buffer. I had a revised general note 4 on the survey and floor plans.
We'll comply with that comment
Okay,
and
that's-
address that.
Fantastic. And then the numbers 13 through 18 were just, well, 14 through 18, I'm sorry, we're all just, minor, I don't want to call boilerplate, but, those conditions, I believe you've reviewed them. Are you guys stipulating those as well?
Correct, we'll
Okay,
comply with those
fantastic.
comments.
Okay, great. I'm satisfied, thank you.
And Mr. Sly, are you satisfied as well? or
Yes,
answering
thank you.
points? I think you were switching to Mr. Quinn's.
Correct, yeah, we received Mr. Quinn's letter dated March 6, 2023. I coordinated with Mr. Quinn this week, and we agreed to comply with the comments. I'll touch upon a few that require testimony. Number 2, the garage structure that is to stay for the proposed conditions will be repaired and updated as required, and is to be used as storage for the homeowner. Number 3 was regarding the home orientation, which we provided testimony on. And comment number 4, we agreed to increase the disturbance limits slightly to provide adequate room around the home for construction. So now the variance request for the steep slope disturbance goes from 531 to 686 square feet for the record. And then lastly, comment number 6, the side door to the garage is no longer being proposed on the plan.
Okay, so, and you guys are stipulating to expanding that limit of disturbance, which I think we've already just addressed that you've already done.
Number 4, correct, yes.
Yes, and then also all the revisions contained, and I believe that's numbers, backtracking, 11 through, well, any revisions that are proposed in this memorandum, let's save myself the time.
Yes, we'll
Okay.
comply. We'll
Okay.
comply with the review letter.
I want to
Fantastic.
circle back for a minute to number 3, because I think it's important for the planning consideration, right, under which you determine this plan. Yes, there's a C1 aspect to this, because there is a limited area to develop. But the orientation of the house exacerbates the disturbance, because it's adverse to what you typically want to do in a sloped area. Normally, if you're trying to fit something into a property, with as little disturbance as possible, you orient the long dimension of the structure with the contours, parallel with the contours. In this case, they've turned the house 90 degrees, and the long axis of the house runs perpendicular to the contours. So the house covers more contours, requires more grading. So my intent is not to redesign this thing, but my intent is to offer that. You've heard the applicant say that there are some maybe C2 reasons associated with the orientation and some of the slope disturbance associated with this, because it is exacerbated a little by the orientation of the house. And the reasons that I heard were there is a more usable rear yard area, and the rear yard area, in fact, does back up to the rear yard areas on the properties that are partially in Bridgewater. And it does provide the way they have the rear yard oriented with the long, protecting the long portion of the house adjacent to the garage, it protects the view shed of the rear yard from the property just up the hill that shares the same driveway easement. So I think what you've heard is that there are advantages to the orientation of the house that exacerbate the hardship aspect of this. So I think there are some C2 aspects that need to be considered when you go through this.
Thank you, Mr. Crowe.
Thank you.
So-
Sure.
To your point, when I look at the design of the house and I'm looking at how the back of the, or actually, I guess the side of the single-family dwelling is now going into the steep slopes, the 25-foot steep slopes. I'm wondering how what are you are you building a retaining wall? Is the house itself going to become the retaining wall?
Right, so that's a great question. So as Mr. Quinn pointed out, there is quite a grade change between the side to side of the house, and one of the ways that we're making it fit in with those slopes is having a walkout basement on the eastern portion of the house. So the high side will be the west side, where we're just sloping down. The garage actually is gonna retain some of that soil, and then we'll transition it on the low side by dropping to a walkout basement to fit in with the slope conditions.
And how high is this retaining wall going to end up?
It's not a retaining wall, it's just that the foundation of the garage will act as a wall. Sorry, I have my other plan over here.
It looks as if it's extending out into the driveway, maybe like halfway.
Right, so that wall where it meets the garage is just under 4 feet, and as it comes off the corner of the garage, it tapers to 0 feet.
You have no issues with that?
No, I mean, so what the westerly side of the house is, it's it's gonna have fill, about 4 feet of fill on it. What they'll have to do is they'll have to bring the masonry up on that side to comply with building code. I mean, I don't have any, this can be engineered. This is not, I don't see this as an engineering problem or a maintenance problem or something, you know, that can't be built or maintained. The point is that I just wanted to make sure that the board knows that there's, because of the orientation, there are some additional disturbances associated with it. So the orientation has to consider C2, I think, because it's not a strict hardship, because the hardship can be minimized further if they orient the house or get it, right, so I'm not saying to change any of this, and I don't think this is gonna represent a problem during construction. I'm just saying it's not, it doesn't, you can't rely on a C1 for it because of the orientation of the house.
Were there any other reasons for orientating the house? Just because it's, when you pull up in the driveway, you would see, was that the only reason that you faced the house in that direction?
That's one of the reasons. The other reason was that when you exit to the rear yard, you're entering the more flatter area on the property. As you can see, the areas that are unshaded, that are white, don't have any steep slope conditions, so it creates kind of a nicer backyard area essentially for outdoor enjoyment.
Almost like on a little bit of a plateau, but not. I mean, I'm seeing that there's a grade differential from the east side of the house to the west side of about 12 feet, looking at the grading lines. It goes from 440 at the east side to 452 at the west side.
That's correct.
So it's still a good slope, it's just,
Right.
it's flatter than the other areas.
Yeah, the property has a lot of slopes. I would say that's more of the level land is over in that area.
The less encumbered land is in that area.
Right.
Your comment about C1 was solely about the disturbance of the slopes,
Yes,
that particular
yes,
variance.
yes.
Right?
And the hardship associated with the slope disturbance.
Yes.
Right,
But
you can't
not for
say
the
it's-
other variances that they were seeking, but for.
No,
just for
correct,
that.
correct, yeah. Well, I mean, the rear yard variance is created, as he pointed out, because of the orientation of the house, right? So they don't have to do that. That also, in my estimation, that also needs to be considered under C2, because the whole orientation of the house is not based on a hardship. It's based on trying to make a presentable and usable house, dwelling, and not necessarily just trying to fit it in to the topo and disturb the slopes minimally. And again, my purpose is not, it's just so that the board understands that this is, I think, partially a C2. You'll have to consider that the orientation of this house somehow enhances the property or represents a better plan than strictly getting a long, narrow house that would fit into the slope. So that's why I think part of the balance has to be for you guys.
Where does drainage go on the property? So what are we talking about runoff and everything here? Where's everything going?
So-
One road or?
Straight down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
So the project proposes a slight decrease in coverage, and we don't trigger the township stormwater rules to have any sort of dry well or feature like that. So the roof leaders are just gonna discharge to grade in splash blocks, follow the natural drainage pattern, which is, essentially flowing down the property.
I mean, there would be a change from a roof drain going out an inlet versus falling on gravel and slowly going over a hill, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
I
that?
mean, you're talking about a structure, large structure,
Right.
having water come on it, doing rain gutters, going out some type of piping down a hill, straight down a hill versus rainwater coming down on gravel and going down a hill. There's definitely a change in how the water's gonna go down from that property, right? I mean, maybe not the amount of flow,
Right.
but where it's going. You're not creating a structure that, any type of like water flow that's gently going down the hill, right? I mean, how does it, the rain gutters are gonna go out a pipe, right? And it's gonna go right down the hill.
They're gonna pipe and they're gonna daylight to grade, and then they're gonna follow the existing drainage pattern, essentially sheet flow as the runoff drains today and flow down to the east, in the eastern direction.
Okay, I'm just saying running off today is different than running off with a house that's filtering water out of pipe down a hill, right?
Concern is you don't want it to be concentrated at any one point.
Yeah, I mean, it's
to cause
concentrated
erosion.
different, right, on the property? You can't say it's the same.
Right, it follows the same pattern, I'll say, but it is concentrated differently because we have more roof area.
Right, okay. And does that cause any, I mean, I guess the amount would be appropriately the same going down the hill to that street that definitely gets a lot of rainwater and overflows a lot and has drainage problems and everything else.
I wouldn't see a problem to the road. What you're alluding to is anytime you collect water, and concentrate it, it's a velocity issue.
Right.
It's not a quantity issue generally, it's a velocity issue. So this property has got such a fetch of hill that they would, I mean, there may be some, they'll have to monitor it. There may be some localized erosion if they didn't set the thing on a nice splash block which spreads it out. I mean, these are personal maintenance property issues that everybody would have to go through. This is particularly steep, but there's not going to be any impact, erosion impacts going off-site or, impacting a roadway, or it'll be local erosion, if any, near the point of the discharge. But that's hundreds of feet down the road. It's not apt to.
I just know that road, and every time.
I don't see
When
it.
it rains on that road always gets overflowing.
Yeah.
And they put drainage in there, and it never really corrects the issue. And that's not your problem. That's someone else's problem. Just don't want to increase that problem, right, for the community versus just a homeowner.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have no further direct testimony. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
I have one. The detached garage structure that's in is it the south part of the property?
Correct, yes.
Do you guys have any plans for that? Is it, are you renovating it? Is it staying as it is, or?
So it's going to stay in the same location. The applicant will use it for storage purposes, and we're going to do some repairs and updates to it
Okay.
to make it look in better condition than it is today.
Okay. And that's the only structure that's going to be remaining on the property that's existing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
And we didn't talk much about the house itself, the design of the house, how it looks from the outside. Is it going to be in the character of the neighborhood with respect to color or design? We saw some of the plan pictures in our packet.
Yes. We visually put up the home. So I'll just briefly describe it. As you can see, the right side in plan view is the garage, which is on the high side. And then it has a nice open porch as you enter the home. And then again, the left side in plan view is the low side where there'll be a walkout basement. And we believe that the house will fit in with the character of the surrounding properties and neighborhood.
This is from the architectural plans the board received?
Correct, yeah, I'm sorry, let me reference this.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, these are part of the plans that were submitted, prepared by Byrne Design Associates, which are in the submission package.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question. I think I heard Mr. Rial say that it was time to develop a new house because of health considerations. How does this house address that?
So all the living space is on one floor. Let me flip to the floor plan. So as my client said, that was one key part of the home and how it was laid out by the architect, was that all living space is on the first floor to accommodate those health issues.
But there's not an issue getting, like a ramp needed to get to a porch, or no accessibility issues that are gonna have to be addressed outside the home or anything?
Not at this moment, but maybe down the road, like we need a aluminum ramp, but,
Yeah, right, okay.
now we're fine.
Okay.
We won't need anything permanent.
And Mr. Rial, did you speak to any of your neighbors about the project? And did you hear any concerns?
Yeah, the neighbors are here actually, and I spoke to Stephanie, which she
Sir,
immediately impacted her.
you just speak into the mic, please.
You
Oh,
can
no,
speak
can
right in
sit.
front of you.
You can sit.
That
Just,
one works. Just
just
bring
use
it
the
closer to
microphone.
your mouth. That would be great.
Pick it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, the two neighbors in Baskin Ridge side, Stephanie, we have a shared driveway, and her brother is on the right side, on the lower level, parallel to than us. I had spoken to them many a times, showed them the blueprints. They had some concerns and some trees and stuff, and we satisfied, I think at this point, all their needs. You know, they're very big at privacy, and I assured them that we want to build a small ranch. That's all it is. Nobody builds ranches, so we're kind of evolving down to that size, low level. You know, from the hillside, you can't even, you'd be lucky to see the house unless the trees are gone, the leaves are gone. But I did talk to the neighbors, and as far as Bridgewater, opposite on Long, I had spoke to those two people, and I had told them. I had spoke to the ones on Cushion, I think it's several here now, just very briefly, not much, and we discussed, I told them we would hopefully build a single-family home here, and that's what we do. We live in this town for 12 years. We built our house here, and now times that the bodies are different now, and now we need to shrink it one level, no more upstairs, and finish our life here, you know? And that's really what it is. And you could see anybody, we've been here for 12 years, and our house, we do quite a bit for the neighborhood, so we've been around a long time. But I did speak to them. If they have more concerns, I'm sure they would tell you today.
Okay, perfect.
But we did try to comply with everything they want as far as my immediate neighbors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions
I'm good for now.
from the board? I was asking the board first, but yeah. Yeah. Is there any question?
Do we need to ask now if there's any plans for a pool, or?
Let's not go there.
I don't think we have any room for pools.
I'm teasing.
It would be hard to get out of too these days.
Don't rent any machinery and go down onto the slope to
Yeah,
dig it out.
Are there any questions from the public based upon the testimony we heard? This is not the time for a comment on the application, but if there was a question on any of the testimony that
Hello,
we've
board.
heard, now is
Hello.
the time.
Good evening, good evening. My name is Andy Fresco. I live at 15 Cushing Drive, which is the, can we get, so I wish I brought a pointer. I didn't realize you guys had such a nice setup here. I'm actually a zoning board member in Bridgewater. It's a little weird tonight for me to be on this side of the dais. I think he referred to it as A1. Do you need my address? Oh, yeah, thank you. Yes, oh, that's great, thank you. I can't, we're getting new microphones in Bridgewater, so we're hoping within the next month. Okay.
Hang on one
Can
second.
you-
Are we good?
Can you hear me?
Mr. Fresco, just,
Sure.
because I think we might get into some testimonial
We will.
statements here.
Yep.
Let me just swear you in if you wouldn't mind. Oh, perfect, we got the Bible over there.
Hmm.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony you're about to provide?
I do, yes.
Great, thank you, sir.
And I understand the forum, so I'll phrase everything in a question as best I can. If you would like, though, Chairwoman, I could take a very quick statement, though, just to give you an idea about.
I'd like just questions at
Okay,
this time,
fair
if you
enough.
don't mind.
No, I don't
We'll
mind at
definitely
all.
give you more
No,
time
no,
if you need it.
I understand, absolutely. Okay, so let's start with some of the easy things. And I guess I'll phrase all these questions for Mr. Roth. So, Mr. Roth, have you received a fire certificate? Has the fire marshal signed off on this property yet?
I don't believe we've received a memorandum.
Okay, do we know if a fire truck can access this property?
A turning template hasn't been provided, but driveway is pre-existing, serves a single-family dwelling further to the western part and a separate property as well.
Okay, so no fire certificate, and no, the fire marshal has not been notified. Is that what I'm hearing?
I believe in part of the application process, the plans go to the fire department, I would assume? Is that protocol?
I believe that's correct, Dave?
The
Comment on that?
fire official reviews permits that pertain, I don't know that he'd have any comment on this most
single-family residential stuff has nothing to regulate
No
as far as they're
comments.
concerned, but
Right, but just.
he hasn't reviewed the plan, because normally would not.
Right, Mr. Roth, do you feel, though, that due to the location, that maybe we should have a fire marshal review this application?
You know,
Did I just, didn't you say someone's gonna review it?
The permit will be reviewed. I don't know that there's anything that's applicable. I don't know what, I'm speaking out of school right now, but typically, the fire official and the fire prevention department doesn't have jurisdiction over single-family properties. That's generally speaking. I don't know what would make this any different, but I'm not an expert in that area.
Oh, Mr. Roth, were you going to answer?
I would defer to the township's process for, as Mr. Sly noted.
Are you familiar with 1438 Long Road by any chance, sir? Did you do any research on that?
What
1438 Long Road, 1438 Long Road?
So I just wanted, if you could, just try to keep the questions limited to testimony he provided. I don't know. I mean, continue your question. I don't want to cut you off if it's still related to it.
Is he the only witness? I believe he said he was planning,
Planning
engineering?
and engineer.
Yeah,
then also-
and Mr. Riel.
And architecture, okay.
Right. Oh, just planning and engineer, right? You're not the architect? Correct.
Planning and engineers. Is there an architect? Will an architect be testifying?
No.
Okay. So then he should be able to answer any questions related to the property itself, the design of the home, the location of the home, the planning, as well as engineering then? Yes?
Yeah.
Right, or
Okay.
the applicant,
Okay,
so.
I'm sorry. Fair enough. So 1438 Long Road was, that property, the variance was denied because of fire? And are you aware that the location of this is on top of a mountain? So it's surrounded by properties. So, okay, fair enough. Let's talk about the
Sorry,
underground.
was there a
propane-
question there?
No, I
Okay.
withdraw.
Okay.
Sorry. Let's talk about the underground propane tank. Does that have a fire suppression system?
Madam Chair, can I just get some clarity in terms of this, where we are in this part of the hearing?
Supposed to
Yeah,
be-
I think we're hearing questions
Yeah, it's supposed to be limited
on
to,
the testimony that we heard.
Okay.
And if you have questions on that, you can direct them to them, so
I'm sorry.
that's
What-
okay. And if
what-
there's statements or comments, we'll definitely hear them
Yeah.
after.
Yep.
right.
Okay, so go ahead with your question.
I'll repeat. I asked, is there a fire suppression system on the underground propane tank?
I don't even know if we touched on the propane tank. I think that's why the board has an issue with the question.
Okay, but it's on the plans. So am I not allowed to question what's on the plans?
I'll allow the question, go ahead.
Let's get the plans up, so we're all on the same page.
No, we heard your question.
No,
Do-
it's
Do you have a
better to be
response?
safe than sorry.
No, we
Better to
heard
be
it,
safe.
I
No,
think.
well, there's other questions that'll be on the plans, guys. I'm sorry.
It's on the
Let's see
plans.
here.
Suppose.
All right. Okay, so we just scrolling here. All right, let's zoom. Okay, so I'll phrase it in a question. Mr. Roth, is there a propane tank on this plan?
Yes, there's one proposed.
Can you identify it? Do you have a pointer? Because I don't have a pointer. Can you identify it for the board?
It's located to the northeast part of the property.
And is the propane tank above ground or below ground?
Right now, it's proposed to be below ground.
How many gallons is the propane tank, sir?
Sorry,
Sir,
what's the,
How many-
what point are you trying to get
Yeah.
to? Because that might be a more efficient way.
Well, we're
to-
trying to prove, I just want to inform.
You don't need to prove it. You
Yeah, I just
can-
want to inform the board that there's a 1,000-gallon propane tank
Okay,
underground.
we see that on
So
the
we're going to
plans.
we're going to get to the point where, how are we going to get it there? So we're going to talk about how, is he going to
Okay,
dig?
so
Will he
we can ask
blast?
that question.
Okay. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm not trying to.
No, that's
I'm not
okay,
trying
but I'm
be
just
an
trying to keep
inconvenience.
it efficient.
I'm trying to be respectful here, I
Yeah.
just want
The-
to cover the
No, we
dangers
appreciate
of
that. I
this.
just want to make sure it doesn't drift into
I-
comments.
I
And if there's
sure-
a question
I
based upon the
promise you, Madam
testimony
Chairman, you can
that we've heard.
snap if I ask, if I get out of line, but I promise you, these are all questions.
No,
They're
no,
all
that's-
relevant
that's
questions.
Great,
terrific,
They,
but-
they do need to kind of be focused on what
On
he
the
testifies to.
testimony that we heard.
And,
Right.
and the plans, correct?
to an extent that he testified to
Okay.
the plans.
Then, Madam Chairman, can you just outline what areas of the plans I cannot talk about?
No, you have a question around the propane
Yes,
tank? We're going to
yes,
allow
okay,
that,
yeah,
so
all right.
please ask your question on the
Okay,
propane
so,
tank.
how large is the propane tank, Mr. Roth? 1,000 gallons. Is there a fire suppression system?
It will comply with the applicable requirements.
Okay. Have you ever designed a property in Bernards Township with a propane tank underground?
I've not, but I have in other
Yeah,
municipalities.
That's not a
proper
testimony
for this.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Okay, let's talk about the septic system. Can you show the board where the septic system is, please, sir?
It's located to the south of the single-family dwelling. It was approved by Berners Township Health Department.
Okay. Will you require blasting to install that septic tank, sir?
No.
So will you agree to a?
Is that a question? Sorry, we got to be
Will
very
you-
careful here.
Yeah, will you agree to a stipulation? That's not.
Okay, that's not based upon his testimony, and that's the board's decision. So if you have more questions on
Okay.
his testimony, please
Sure.
Yeah.
continue.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the size of the septic tank, Mr. Roth. How is the size of the tank determined, sir?
In accordance with.
Sir, did you even testify to the septic tank before? I can't even remember if you touched
The
on
only
it.
thing I noted regarding the septic tank that we received the permit from the Township Health.
Right.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
It's fair game.
It is on the plan, correct?
Go ahead,
Go
ask a
ahead, ask the
question.
Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't come up sooner. So will that require blasting?
No.
Okay. No blasting for the tanks, either tanks, okay. Can we talk about the design of the home for a second? How many bedrooms are in the home?
Three bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. How many bathrooms are in the home, sir?
I'm not sure we need to, do we
Yes,
need to
sir.
recover this?
Yeah,
Did
and
we cover
he's,
the-
he's
did
not,
we-
a-
Did we cover, I'm sorry.
But
did
we
cover
have
the-
that information.
right, and he's
and
not
it's been
testifying as an
presented.
I'd like to get
architect.
it on the record, I'm sorry. Okay.
The application is part of the record.
The application's part of the record, yeah,
Right,
all this
right.
information has already
Okay.
been, yeah, it's part of the record. so-
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Okay. All right.
And we're happy to hear all these points, if you want to make a comment at the end,
Right.
because I feel like you're trying to get things on the record that perhaps aren't questions about his
Sir,
testimony.
could you have designed this home without interfering with the steep slopes?
That's definitely not a proper question. What ifs are not,
Could you
part of our
have-
purview.
Could you have designed this home without interfering with the steep slopes, the 25% steep slope? That's not in the form of a question?
It's in the form of a question, but the board is basically limited to
Okay.
what's before us here.
I will speak openly if you want to, but you asked me to
No,
keep
you
everything.
can save your comment at the right period when we
Okay.
call you back up.
Right,
If
I
you have
understand.
questions
So,
based upon the testimony he's given over the last
Your board
hour.
professionals have spoken to the fact that this house,
Is-
the
sorry,
orientation of
stop.
the house
Stop.
is irregular.
Stop.
So we're
Sir,
talking
sir,
about
Sir,
I'm
the
gonna,
layout
I'm
of
gonna
the
stop
house.
it here.
Okay?
Okay, if you have a comment to make, we will hear it in full, and I guarantee you, the board will give you their full attention. But right now, it's questions based upon the testimony that he gave.
right.
Okay, it's not different points you're trying to get on the record. If you have a specific question about something he has said, this is the time to cover it.
Okay.
I'm sorry you're not happy with
Yeah.
that answer.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Hey,
Right.
it's
and-
your room, madam.
Thank you.
Okay, so. Okay. Mr. Roth, could you have made the house smaller?
That's
Sir,
Okay.
yeah.
Why don't we move, if you're comfortable.
Well, what we're trying to find out
No.
here is.
What we're trying to do
Sir,
is
you're not-
answer your
all
question
right,
based upon the
okay.
testimony he has given. If you feel that the house should have been larger or smaller,
I
or
don't feel that way.
any
I don't
comments?
object to the house. I don't object to the house.
Okay,
madam.
it sounds like these are more comments.
Yeah, and we're getting into
Okay.
speculative questions
So
about
if there are
hypotheticals.
questions, do you
Right.
have questions based upon the
Okay.
testimony he's given?
let's talk about the maintenance garage. You did testify to the maintenance garage. What I'd like to do at this time, madam, is enter into,
So this is,
Hold it.
we're still in questions. You can't enter any exhibits until we get to the
Any-
comment period.
That's right. Questions only.
I can put exhibits up though, correct? Chris,
You can ask a question, sir.
Right?
Right.
Are you saying I can't display an exhibit?
You can, but
You can't
we're limited to
enter-
comments at this point. If
Well,
you're
it's
entering an exhibit,
questions.
it's got to be testimonial.
It's questions, though, right? So then at what point then are we gonna do that? Because I'm assuming he's gonna wanna ask.
We'll have public comment.
We will, I guarantee you, okay?
Yeah.
Wow, all right, okay. This is gonna go on, so, all right, fine, fair enough. So let's get back to the storage shed. So, can you tell us what the size of the storage shed is, sir?
That's fair.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm sure.
It's 556 square feet.
556 square feet. Now, according to the plans, there is a garage on the property already, correct?
I'm sorry, you said your question was related to the storage shed. It
Yes.
needs to remain in proposed
That's right, yes.
conditions.
I need to phrase it in a question, so I'm asking, there already is a garage on the shed, on the plans. What will you be using the storage shed, the maintenance garage is actually what it's referred to in the deed. What will the applicant be using that space for?
Storage purposes.
Right.
Storage
And
purposes.
that was testified to, I believe.
How will he gain access to the storage maintenance garage? How will he gain access to that, considering it's in the backyard?
There's a door on that garage.
Okay. So then, at no point will he put any automotive, cars, tractors, things like that in there?
I defer to the
Is
applicant.
that something you want me to answer?
Yeah, you know, he's
Okay.
asking
Yeah.
what types of
I
things
have
might
no in-
use storage.
I have no intentions, but just the storage, that's all.
Thank you. Can you describe to us the condition of the roof of the maintenance garage at this current time?
It requires some repairs, which I stated in testimony the applicant is proposing.
Correct.
Okay.
Testified to.
Okay. Are you aware that there's 2 structural cracks in the foundation of that storage garage?
My applicant is aware of the condition of that structure.
Okay. Are you aware if the maintenance garage has ever been inspected by the Berners Township?
I'm not aware.
Okay. Okay, let's just, a few more questions. Mr. Roth, when you were contracted to design this home, was the condition of the lot in the condition that it is now? Has anything changed on the lot?
Would you like me to answer?
Yeah. We're veering into things that he did not testify to and that were not the subject of his testimony. We've given you a wide latitude, sir, and, you know,
Yeah.
really respectfully ask that you just kind of limit it to what he talked about, you know?
He designed the home though, correct? We're talking about a C1 versus C2 variance here, so we've got a big issue. These are both very.
Sorry.
I don't
Correct.
believe he's the architect.
He's not-
He's the civil engineer. He did not design the home.
Right.
He laid out the property. He laid out
Exactly.
the survey and the property.
Yeah, we're trying to be very accommodating here,
It's a
but,
specific
you know.
purpose.
Okay, so no questions about the home itself then?
Other
I
than
mean,
things he testified about and testified to, the question about the setbacks.
Your board professionals spent multiple minutes discussing the position of this on the lot. I'm asking
have a
if the
question
lot
around-
has changed.
That's
Okay.
not
Is it-
what
did
you
it
asked
change,
us.
or is that the
Do
way
you have
that
a
it was?
specific question about
Yes.
the position of the
Yes.
house?
It
Okay,
was
I
that
didn't hear
lot-
that, so.
Yes, I
so
said.
restate your
Oh, sure, I
question.
will. Was the lot in its current condition when you were
That's
contracted?
not the same,
That's
that's not about the location of the house, that's a
Yeah,
different question.
yeah.
So, any questions relative to his testimony? Otherwise, save it for your comment, and we will hear you out.
Okay. Okay. You win. I'll wait. Let's save ourselves all sorts of time, and let's move on. No further questions.
No further questions, okay.
You win.
Does anyone else from the public have any questions around the testimony that we've heard? Okay, here we go. Do you have any other comments before we open it up for public comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, does anyone from the public have a comment about this application, either for or against?
Come on back, Mr.
Come on
Fresco.
up.
I remind you, sir, you remain under oath as I placed you under that before, so thank you. And we respectfully thank you for respecting our process as well.
Can I approach?
You may approach, sir.
There are 6 copies.
And
You're not going to number these? You're not going to put these as evidence?
yeah, you can. We're going to make them as an exhibit
Now
now. Now we will.
Pre-number them?
Yeah, we'll mark this as 01.
So that way they would stay together.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Do you have one for the applicant as well?
Right.
Sorry, Carl.
When
I do not. I wasn't sure.
you can take mine.
We can share up here.
And sir, before we go any further, could we just get a brief description of what this
Yes.
exhibit is?
Okay, I included the date on the bottom when the photos were taken. I took the photos myself, Andy Fresco, 15 Cushing Drive in Bridgewater.
And you took
We
these-
are
I'm sorry, you took these on the property?
I did.
You had permission to go on the
You had
property?
access to the property?
These were taken, all but one of these photos was taken from my property because remember, board,
How about
that
this
this
first
is
one?
5 feet on my property.
How
So,
about this first one?
I can't be sure.
Where was this?
I
This
can't be
was taken
sure.
from your property?
It was, yes. Which one? What number are you referring to,
the
Madam
first
I
Chair?
don't know, the first one that I'm looking at?
Oh,
This was
number 1.
taken from your
Okay.
property?
No, that was not taken from my property. So these are photos that were taken a few weeks ago, the date's on there, of the maintenance garage in its current condition. You can see on photo 1,
I was gonna say, I'm just having a little trouble following which photos these.
Okay, do
sure.
you have a copy in front
I
of you?
do, I'm just not sure which one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Page
you
one,
could hold
right?
them up. Yeah.
this is a photo of the inside of the garage. I never actually went in. So-
Well, you had a
It's work.
trespass there because
yeah.
that's, I put that there, so I know you went on.
Well, I was on the entrance, never actually went
Well,
inside.
you trespassed on my property,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, let's hear the comment first and
before we get into criminal-
before we get
That's the
into back and forth.
inside garage. That damage was done during Hurricane Ida. Second, number 2, shows the roof damage. Photo 3 also shows damage to the roof. Photo 4 shows a structural crack on the west side.
And this was
No,
taken
south
from
side, I'm
your
sorry.
property also?
Yes. Again, Madam Chairman, this structure is 5 feet on my property. So, and this is also some more structural damage that.
Sorry, what page are you on now?
Page 4 and 5.
5.
And then finally, page 6 shows damage to the south side. That's the side facing my property. I'd like those to go on the record. Okay, all right. Let's cut to the chase here. So, Steve and I spoke in the hallway prior to this meeting. Just to clear the record, I was never contacted about this application until I was noticed. Steve had testified to the fact that he met with some other neighbors. He did not meet with me.
I did meet with you.
Hang on, let's just hear the comment.
No, let's have, no.
No.
Okay.
We're going to do one at a
Okay.
time.
We're going to do it our way.
Okay, sure.
This is a
Okay.
comment
So,
to the board.
great. Okay, so I met Steve shortly after he purchased the property. I heard a chainsaw in the woods. This property has remained vacant for many years. The gentleman that lived here owned a lot of property on the mountain. Okay, it was vacant. It was a vacation property. So when I heard a chainsaw, I went down to see what was going on. I met Steve at that time. I had no idea. He mentioned maybe doing something. We had a pleasant conversation, but it was only a moment. I'm not here at all, okay? I have no issue with him building a home on this lot, okay? Zero issue, all right? As a developer, as a builder, as a homeowner, whatever it is, I'm not objecting to it. Okay, I'm only here tonight with the help of my neighbors, only to preserve what we love about Bridgewater Bernards border, which is a safe, quiet treescape, free from runoff and encroachment. Okay, so I also want to share at this time, which it did not number because I wasn't sure where you would be.
That's fine. We'll take this as O2. Is this an additional photograph?
This is a photograph
Okay.
of,
And there's no date on this one?
there
We're
is
gonna
no
take-
date, it was taken at the same time.
Okay.
I didn't want to have it. I was planning on presenting it at a different time. This is a photograph taken from my backyard, looking north toward the maintenance shed. You can see the damage, you can see how unpleasant it is. It's cinder block. This is important to point out is that, and some of your board members did bring it up, there's a very, very steep slope here. You can see it, so it really drops down severely, but you can see that from just standing on the level ground. We have a very clear view of it. My neighbor to the east can also see the property. My home was built in 1998 with strict adherence to the R50 zone, and along with my neighbors, it meets all setbacks. I think any property investor, builder, developer should be held to the same standards, and I'm asking you to consider that when you make a decision about this case. I tried to talk about the steep slopes. I think it's important for you to think about these steep slopes, okay? The deck is coming out onto a 25-degree steep slope, okay? Your own professionals have commented on this, okay? The runoff on Long Road is terrible. You know that as well as I do. I think somebody brought it up, okay? So my point was to try to just ask him if he could have made it a little bit smaller, right? He could have actually avoided interfering with those slopes. You know, when we make these decisions on these cases, it's like these are going forever. I mean, this is going to be here forever. You know, we're going to create runoff potentially on the road. I'll leave it at that. I also just want to remind you about the fire, please. This is the top of the Watchung Mountain, okay? Please, 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 I beg of you to get a stipulation here that at least you get the fire chief up there to measure it and to see if the fire truck will make the turn. Okay, nobody wants that on their conscience. I also ask that you request a stipulation for no blast, okay? We live in the same geographic area. We all know. Somebody was in here talking about a swimming pool. These builders, they come in, yeah, sure. But you're talking about underground propane and underground septic fields. They may need to blast. And just think about how close. Look at the map. How close it is to those steep slopes. You're right there, you're right there. The footings for his deck are literally on the 20%. And again, I don't object to the home. I really don't. He's a nice guy. I have nothing against it. I just want to make sure it's safe, okay? And it's clean and quiet. All right, last few things, I promise. I question the hardships, okay? My point I was trying to make was just to ask Mr. Roth. Listen, they got there. You saw the pictures. There's no impervious coverage on this lot currently. There's nothing other than the garage, okay? This guy before him built this wonderland of stone and block. It's really a neat place, but there's no impervious coverage. You're gonna put this house there, and you're gonna drop a ton of water down this slope, okay? Put him to the test. Make them deal with the drainage. I'm telling you, okay? You all have been on that road. So I just think that we should look and see, maybe we could scale down the size of the home to make it conform, not require a variance for a piece of, a structure that's on my property, as well as your setback to my property. You know, he's saying 250 feet, but what you have to really realize is this drops off massively. So it's not really 200 linear feet, it's 200 feet of a hill, so it looks like it's right there. And again, it's not just mine, I'm gonna give you one more piece of evidence, or one more thing to submit in a second, but it's also my neighbor here. They designed it in a way that he comes before this board for relief from something he created and brought on himself. That's all I'm asking. They knew it was there, they built it anyway, and now they're here. Okay? It could just be a little bit smaller. So let me just submit one more thing. My next door neighbor, the son, her husband, had to get surgery today, so she wrote a letter. This is the signed letter.
Yeah, we can't
These are
accept
the
that.
copies of the letter.
I don't think we can accept that,
That
sir.
one you can hang on to.
Yeah, I believe that's hearsay, but I don't think we can,
Yeah,
we can't take that.
Yes.
It's a sworn statement from well, not sworn, but it's a statement from somebody they haven't,
Yeah.
they have.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
No, it's no problem.
yeah.
You can continue to comment.
No, I'm gonna read it. All right.
I guess you can read it.
Chung Sun, 17 Cushing Drive, Bridgewater, New Jersey, March 6, 2022, Zoning Board of
Sir,
Adjustments.
we're really,
Mr. Sobieski, are
We
you...
can take
are-
your
are
comments.
you-
we can take your comments, but.
Are you
comments.
suggesting, sir, that you're not gonna allow me to read this?
I don't like it because you're getting into this is somebody
This
else's
is
statement
somebody
that you're
else's
reading.
statement.
It's a hearsay. They're not here to, I haven't been able to swear them in so that I know what they're saying is accurate. You see the issue that we're running into here. If you could summarize what she says, by all means, or at least what you believe that her feelings are, but if you're gonna read from it directly, I'm gonna have to put a stop to it. I'm sorry.
Can I ask the secretary, did you receive this email, via email, ma'am?
I did not.
You do not? Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. Let the record show that you did not allow me to read the letter, the statement from my neighbor. Okay. So, last few things. I came here, I expected this to be a pleasant experience, to be honest with you. My wife is here. I moved to this part of Bridgewater 3 years ago, almost exactly, because I lived on the side near the Center of Excellence. I became involved with the community because I helped fight the Center of Excellence that Mayor Mensch recently renegotiated. I came here to escape that side of town, and I welcome Steve in our neighborhood. I only ask that you think about safety first, the runoff, the blasting. Those are things that are important to any board, and that is all I have. Good
Okay.
evening.
I have a question,
Go ahead.
if I may.
Yep, you sure can.
When you bought your property, there was an easement on your property for that structure? Is that correct?
Yes,
So you were aware that structure was there?
yes.
And you were aware that you have no control over that particular structure? Is that
So,
how the, is that
yes,
how the
I'll
easement
answer your
works?
question, yes. But when you read the plans, the easement clearly states for the life of the structure.
Yes.
So, I ask you, structural cracks, bad roof, the inside, I have not inspected. I'm not sure if your board professional have inspected it, but has it exceeded its life? That's the question.
Well, the structure's still standing, so.
Ultimate,
yeah.
We
if
don't
I
need
could,
to answer.
well, let me color that, and that's a question for a court to decide, not for this
Yes,
board.
I'm
so,
aware of that, yes.
You know,
Although it could be stipulated, though, that it would be removed at some point, or sized down, or improved upon.
or renovated.
Because we have 3 neighbors at least, plus the other 2, you know,
But
that are affected
Do you have
by
any
it.
agreement that states that there has to be anything maintained? Do you have that agreement?
Absolutely not. No, remember, when we moved there, it was vacant. It was an abandoned property. It was owned by I guess, his surviving wife, was it maybe, in Washington DC? So it was a vacant property. And absolutely, just like I'm telling him, hey, he got there, he saw the property, he built the house, but he's in front of you asking for a variance. Same thing for me. I bought the property like we talked about in the hallway. I knew it was there. He said, I'm fine with the house. But you're talking about, you know, all these people that are there that have to look at that, and all I'm asking is that maybe you have a stipulation, you know, that says, hey, this is no good for Berners Township, this is no good for Bridgewater, right? I mean, look at this. Here it is, you know, boom, boom. This guy's deck is right here. He's got a straight shot. I don't know if that's what either of us want in our community. Thank you, though, I appreciate you asking.
Okay, thank you. We do appreciate your comments.
No, he didn't build his house, right?
Sorry.
Okay, done. I'm done.
May I ask Mr. Rael a question?
Sure, yeah.
How many square feet is the footprint of your house? Do you know that?
I think the,
It doesn't say on the architecture.
2,300 square foot, it's a small, it's half the size of the gentleman's house. It's
How-
just 2,300 square foot house.
2,300 square foot, and does it
It's a small, low ranch, it's like 23 feet high, it's only two-thirds of a normal house, a two-story.
Does
It's
it have,
just,
does it have a basement? The plans don't show a
it
basement.
just has the walkout, that's it, and it's only gonna be on one little section of it too.
Can I ask
So-
two questions also? I mean,
Yeah.
are you concerned about a fire hazard if
No.
you're living in this house and you're elderly at some point in time and
Not at
someone
all.
can't make it up?
Propane is propane or
No, no, I'm
anything
not
else.
concerned
Oh,
about
no,
propane.
no, no.
I'm talking about
No, 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 no
a fire
concern.
truck
It's
getting
gonna
up.
It's gonna be situated so we can get in and out early, easy. The
No, no.
fact of the matter is that it's big trucks that go up there, many a time, concrete trucks, heavy stuff that been up there in the past, so it's no issue with big trucks getting up there. So
And-
I'm
and
concerned,
just-
not at all.
Would you want to have the fire department check out the road and the pathway for your
Well, I
own
think
safety?
eventually they'll come up and look at it. Do I want anything more than I don't know? Whatever the requirements from you guys,
No,
that's what
I'm
I'm
just
going by.
saying for your own personal safety, would you?
No, I'm confident that I'm fine.
Mr.
Okay.
Schleier, Mr. Quinn,
Very
like,
confident.
do you have a
Yeah.
comment on whether you would recommend to the board an additional fire safety check?
I
Or is
think
the
the
assumption
fire company is
that
gonna
the
be
fire company-
notified
They'll be
of the
notified through the normal
demolition as a
permit?
condition of
Okay.
approval, and
And just to the blasting question, is there, you said that you wouldn't be doing any blasting as part of this application whatsoever? Okay.
No.
And you can't say future, of course, but as part of any digging or, I'll say,
Based on the perk test and what we had, it was fun. The dirt was pretty good up there. It's some spot, I think, where we're at, because of the position of the house and the walkout, you're only going into the ground minimal, because the garage don't have a basement, you're not going there. The back of it's gonna be a little small crawl space. Then you have the one section, which is the contour of the property. And if you do a straight line from the right side of the garage all the way down, and you go based on an 8-foot basement, you're only going into the earth minimum, only basically for footings and stuff.
so you sound like more of a, not a homeowner, a builder, or someone that has done this before? Is that true?
Well, I was here
Okay.
before the
No, I'm just
board.
asking.
No,
I wouldn't know all the things you're
12
saying.
years
that's
ago,
all.
I was here between the two boards,
Okay.
and that was about 12 years ago, and then I was here once before, so,
Okay.
you know,
That's not what you do for a living, building houses.
no.
Okay, no, I didn't.
I work
Okay.
for a utility company,
I'm just curious,
the
okay.
gas company.
You're saying you did borings for a perk test, so you know how
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is to run.
The soil, they went right down with just a normal backhoe, or was it 310 SG?
Yeah, but just to clarify, Stephen witnessed them, he didn't perform them, we had a contractor
right.
perform them,
Yeah.
and we done test pits.
Okay, great.
for the-
And
for
he
the
went
septic.
down quite a bit.
And what the deepest depth of excavation for the house is roughly?
I would say, I mean, the septic installation may actually be deeper, and in that case, we're going down approximately 6 to 8 feet.
Actually, you're not, okay. It's not-
The septic borings are typically 10 feet, have to be a minimum of 10 feet from whatever the grade is. So they would have a pretty good idea where any rock would be by virtue of those, I would think.
So if it's a walkout basement, then you're only going down 3.5 feet for a frost. You're not going any.
Right, and what you just heard Mr. Real say is it's probably gonna be a partial basement. They're not gonna carry that basement under the garage,
Right.
or probably under the back room. I would think they'd cut the basement off right there at the L. In which case, they'll be down about, 8 feet from existing grade. So they'll be going down about the same depth that they went down on the soil logs for the septic, so they should have an idea of what they're doing.
May I also ask about the propane tank?
Mhm.
I thought we weren't burying tanks any longer.
Well, you can, this is also not my area of expertise, but I have had enough conversation about this. if you bury anything like that, first of all, I don't know about the size. 1,000 gallons is big. I've only seen as much as a 500 gallon on a residential property. But if you bury them now, they have to be double wall tank with interstitial spacing, monitoring, so that you know if there's a breach through the first wall. Again, I don't know about propane, but I've dealt with oil and gasoline tanks that have to have that double wall monitoring so that you know if there's any kind of penetration or leak. Again, the utility company and zoning will make sure that, I know there's certain separations based on the size of the propane tank. You can't have one over 120 gallons next to your house, but
Is it regulated by the DEP?
no, it won't be regulated by the DEP, the tank. The tank will be regulated by a Board of Health, I would think.
Board of Health.
Yeah.
But he cannot get an approval, he can't get his certificate of occupancy for his house unless that's all signed off on and approved throughout construction inspections, correct? As well as final inspections.
That would be my understanding. Dave, you would have a better
correct.
idea following through construction, because,
Certainly, yes.
Getting it on the record.
Yes, appreciate that, Ms. Bellin.
Right.
Okay. Any additional questions from the board? Because we've just heard some additional testimony.
I would ask just one, to satisfy the concerns raised by members of the public. Based on what I've heard, would you guys be willing to stipulate to a condition with no blasting for, at least in connection with the project that's before the board right now?
Okay, I can't see any,
You're not going to do it, but just,
right, we have no intention to blast based
Okay.
on the test.
so you
holes.
stipulate, yeah,
We were very clear, it went smooth. One section was even like just pure dirt, the other section had some rocks, but it was good tough stuff.
okay, so you're
But
agreeing that
blasting, there's no,
you won't blast? Okay, great, that's
Okay.
I
one.
don't, what, no.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. All right, any additional questions from the board? It's a good time. Okay, we've heard some additional testimony, both from the board and our professionals and our applicant. I have to open it up to the public again to ask if there's any additional questions based upon solely the additional testimony that we just heard over the past 10 to 15 minutes. Any questions?
Mr. Fresco, you're good? Sounds good, okay,
Okay. Thank you.
of course.
Are there any comments from the public? Come on up. No, we're going to try and make this a good experience for you.
Good evening, everybody.
My name is Stephanie Verb. I live at 61 Long Road.
I'm going to need you to raise your right
Oh,
hand. I got
sorry.
to swear you in. Thank you very much. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you
Yes,
God?
sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I live at 61 Long Road, which is right above Mr. Real's property. And I didn't know who to direct this question to, but if the house was, excuse me one second, if the house was oriented traditionally with no variance, what would be the maximum allowable square footage?
There's no, you mean the size of the house?
Yes, if they followed all of the ordinances.
There's
and-
no, the size isn't limited directly to the size of the house. It's the amount of lot coverage you can have and your setbacks. Your house can be as big as you can make it, as long as you don't exceed the maximum height, as long as you don't get too close to the property lines, and as long as you don't exceed the total lot coverage, which is the house and the driveway and all the things you're building on the ground, and that's 15% of the lot. So you couldn't really,
Well, if the house was facing Long Road,
you could, well,
and we
the.
followed the rules.
You could make a bigger house if the house was facing Long Road, because you could the building envelope widens out.
Okay, well, by my calculations, and I'm a layman, I don't understand any of this, it was about 1,200 square feet. So my only concern.
Sorry, what was 1,200 square feet?
If all the ordinances were adhered to, the home would be approximately 1,200 square feet.
Does that sound correct?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I'm not sure how you got there unless you want to tell us
And
how you
Miss,
got
I
there.
just
but-
wanted, not trying to be disrespectful in any regard, but we're limited in this portion to just comments, so questions that kind of
okay,
came
so
and passed, but,
as a neighbor, my basic concern is the size of the dwelling. I do think it's slightly excessive. It doesn't completely fit in the neighborhood. The increased square footage increases the number of inhabitants. The impact of more vehicles on a steep gravel driveway is not preferable, and it's just simply too large for the 3-acre lot in the setting, which is why the ordinances exist. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Are there additional comments? Come on up.
My name is Gregory Verb.
Do you swear that I'm sorry. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Great, thank you. Name and address, please.
Gregory Verb, 33 Long Road, to the north of the applicant.
Okay, great. Thank
On
you.
the same side?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had the two little lots on the side. I was
Good,
actually
okay.
before you guys about a year and a half ago where you let me dig a pool.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Welcome back.
Hey. Steve has been honest and transparent so far with us. We appreciate that. My concern was privacy, as his front yard is facing my backyard. That has been addressed by Steve by agreeing to plant trees basically on the property line to avoid us looking into each other's backyards. I would just request that's memorialized in some way, shape, or form, that it's maintained.
Okay, thank you.
Board approves.
Have those already been planted, or was that a side agreement? I'm sorry. I
Those
didn't-
are on the plans.
Those are the plants that have been agreed, okay.
Right, and they stick to,
Okay, so-
providing some more details on the trees.
So your comment is reflecting that the plans show what you agreed to? Okay,
Pretty much.
Thank
Or can it be memorialized that it's maintained by a future owner or something of that nature? I don't know how that works.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Additional comments on this application, for or against?
Good evening, Paul Humbert, 48 Deer Creek Drive.
Uh,
I happen
sir.
to know-
Paul?
Sir. Thank you. Good to see you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, great, thank you.
I happen to know Steve as a friend and neighbor. He is a very decent person, someone who always does the right thing. Coincidentally, I also am good friends with Andy. I think they're going to get along. I think they're going to be terrific neighbors because they're both smart enough to know that compromise is the key. I can tell you from firsthand experience that I'm very sad to see that Steve is going to be leaving my neighborhood, but I'm very happy that he's going to be staying in town. He's a great asset to the town, and I think he'll be a great neighbor to these people. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Paul,
comment.
before you go, what was your last name again?
Humbert.
Humbert, okay. And your address one more time?
48 Deer Creek Drive.
Deer Creek, okay, great, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Humbert. Additional comments on this application? Okay. Do you want to make any final comments before you turn it over to the board?
I come in peace. You know, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
You know, if you know where I live now, and my wife decorates the house for everybody in the town, and Halloween, and Christmases, and, you know, we come in peace. We're not looking to harm nobody. We're just looking to build a humble home.
Sir, let me ask, I believe you did testify, that, or maybe your engineer did, I apologize if I'm getting it mixed up, that you did plan on making renovations to that detached garage and the, I guess what would be the rear yard,
We'll
correct?
make it cosmetically look nice.
Okay, would you be willing to stipulate to including that as a condition of approval if the board so approves your application, that you
Yeah,
will
that's not a
prepare
problem.
and do that, subject to, I guess, either the engineer or the planner's satisfaction that it's in a safe and reasonable
I don't know what
condition?
that's gonna mean.
Yeah, it's hard to, that's the thing, it's hard to kind of,
We're gonna have a new house.
have a
we're gonna
subject
have a new
standard for that.
garage. It's all
Yeah.
gonna look pretty. You know, and that's the whole idea. You can't keep, you know.
Are you talking about like new siding and a new roof?
No, I'm talking about just scraping it. You got stone foundation, clean
Okay.
it up.
I'm just trying to put
No,
it
no,
in
I understand.
in wording
Yeah.
that can actually be enforced
Exactly.
and
we
that
need
we
to-
know what will be
We'll
done.
do the proper repairs on the roof, whatever's required, you know, and clean up probably paint the exterior of the garage so it's nice looking. because in the pictures that our neighbor had sent us, you can see it's only a tiny portion of what he could possibly see. So I think that we put some earth tones right there.
Is it gonna be,
By the way, that's from the ground, sorry.
is the garage gonna be painted to match the house?
You know, that's a tough one, but I can tell you, we're looking at earth tones for the main house. So whatever the house is, probably pretty close there.
Could you stipulate to, painting the garage consistent with the exterior of the home in a way such that it fits? Is that, can we work with that?
We could work with that.
Okay, we'll work with that, and we will put that in as a stipulation, or if the board approves it,
Yep,
that,
yep.
that could be
Yeah,
could be
so-
a stipulation.
We'll
So,
paint it, clean
yeah.
it.
I don't want to cut you off, you go.
Oh, it's okay. No,
Okay.
we'll do whatever is needed,
Yeah,
It's
so,
gotta be right.
yeah, I just had a running list here, so we're gonna repair the roof, repair the siding, paint the exterior in a fashion that's gonna be aesthetically consistent with the main dwelling. Anything else, Tom or Dave, you guys could think of that we might want to throw in there, just to give some?
Don't get mad at me, but can I ask a question? Would it pay to put some green giants around it? Could they go in there, a little landscaping?
Well, then the easement's big enough for it, but,
Does that allow, I don't know if the easement allows.
Well, that's, yeah.
our
Yeah, it's in
neighbor's
the easement now.
Okay,
yeah.
We don't know what the terms of the easement are. It could be that they're not allowed to plant anything,
okay.
based on what the easement says, So, that's an issue, but, yeah.
Okay,
I suppose if the easement does permit, and it is recorded from what I understand, if the easement does permit landscaping within it, we could require that as a condition. However, if the easement doesn't allow for that, then it would be void, so I'm just iffy on including that, just based on, it's an unknown variable.
Just an idea.
Yeah, but
Okay.
no,
And that's
I consider that too, it is a good suggestion.
okay, anything else before you turn it over to the board? You come in peace, I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wanna leave in peace, one piece.
We all
Do
do.
you have a comment? Do you want to,
Actually, when,
you have to come on up to the mic.
speaking
You're
to
still
You're still
sworn
on,
in?
yeah, you're still under oath
Still
sworn in,
under oath.
thank you.
Speaking to the fire department aspect, actually, there was a resolution, I believe, in the 80s for 61 when they tried to trifurcate that lot. The fire department did do a study and say they could get a truck back up in the 80s. As for blasting, I just dug a pool there. You don't need to blast.
Okay.
The rock that comes through is scored. It's all iron rich. It breaks easy with machine.
Great, I
Okay, thank you.
appreciate those comments, thank you.
Absolutely.
Last call for comments. Okay, we're going to take it to the board then. Might as well kick off on deliberations or comments, suggestions on this application. Sure, yes. That might be a good place to start.
Where did you say you wanted to start, I'm sorry?
We were going to start perhaps on the conservation easement, which on Mr. Sly's memo, I think was 5C, on whether the board thought that it should be required.
I'll make a comment. Mr. Schley does not think it's warranted, so I would agree with them. But I will accept whatever the board decides the majority.
I had the same view. I didn't see really what it prevented, since we had specific rules and regulations around that aspect. That was my view as well, so I would be inclined not to require it.
Same, it's pretty much not a developable area of the lot with the steep slopes,
Yeah,
so
I
I don't know
agree
what
with
the
you.
conservation easement does.
Okay. Does anyone on the board feel that it should be required if it was approved? Okay, so moving on. Do you want to talk about the buffering, the easement question that Ms. Baumann brought up with respect to potential trees in the easement? And
Are you talking about buffering around the garage?
yeah, around the garage. I mean, I agree that there would be useful there. I think the easement complicates it, and certainly, the neighbors could always plant trees as well. So-
Yes, very true. There's so many trees on this property already, I don't know how anything else is gonna grow.
But it could be done if somebody wanted it to be done, so I kind of felt like that didn't need to be addressed by the board, but
I don't think it's necessary, and if the shed is similar to the house, and it's gonna be more aesthetically pleasing, so I wouldn't require it.
okay. How about the point with respect to the fire safety issue? I think we heard from Mr. Sly, we heard some comments from several neighbors, some focusing on additional requests from the fire department. Does anyone feel like that would be necessary in this application?
You talking about the roadway?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would be in everybody's best interest to have it looked at.
I think
Even
Mr.
if this
Sly
was done
said,
back in the eighties, the size of the vehicles
Yeah.
from the eighties versus today differs too, yeah.
I think what I heard from Mr. Sly, though, is that via the permit process, the fire department would.
Well, they
See it?
review what is under their jurisdiction. The fire subcode official will review everything that's getting constructed. The fire official, the Fire Prevention Bureau, who would normally review with the fire company, like road layouts when subdivisions are being done and things like that, and then turning radius for fire trucks and where hydrants are and everything. My understanding is they have no jurisdiction over a single-family development. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if they had a suggestion or something to the extent that, I mean, if they did have a suggestion, if it was a suggestion, it wouldn't mean anything. If it was a requirement, I don't know how you would make it a requirement. So I don't know, I mean, other than having the applicant's gonna be reaching out to the fire company regarding doing the drills on the site for demolition purposes.
For the destruction.
He can be required to reach out to the fire company for advice or consultation on anything that maybe he can adjust to make things more doable or less of an issue for the fire company, but without any real I don't know where's the requirement?
Right.
What are we reviewing and enforcing?
The only thing that I'm a little stuck on is that a single-family dwelling doesn't require the ability to get a fire truck to it,
My understanding is no. I
No.
mean, there's a lot of properties in town
that the fire trucks can't
where,
get to.
yeah, I mean, just because of topography, maybe it's because of the way a property owner designed their property.
Right,
It's just
right.
not accessible. I mean, we have standards for driveways that are geared toward making them accessible for cars,
Right, right.
you know, the grades and the widths and things like that.
Then what happens if the fire company says they can't get to it? Do they have to widen the road? I mean, it kind of.
Well, they know what to do in situations when they're, you know, wherever, I don't know what they do, but they have a plan for it. You know, they gotta drag hose from up that driveway, is I guess what they're gonna do.
So maybe we can can we leave it, does it make sense just to leave it as, if we approved it, that the applicant would stipulate to discussing with the fire company if they have any suggestions with respect to,
Yeah.
you know, increasing the safety aspect, the accessibility.
If that's what you guys want us to
Yeah,
do.
it would be to your benefit as well,
We can just
considering.
speak to them about it.
Yeah, if they have any advice, at least you could take
Yeah,
it under
at least
advisement at
we-
the very.
Sure, we'll take advice.
Okay.
At least we'll note that
Yeah,
we
that-
recommended that.
exactly.
Okay?
Mr. Roth's testimony was that the road at the narrowest was 12 feet wide.
Yes.
I mean, that's plenty big
I
enough to get a
would
fire
think
truck
it's,
in.
I would think it is,
Yeah, and he's
and
got
for
a
all the other
pretty
trucks
good-sized
that are gonna have to
driveway
build
for
the
turning
house,
around.
I would
It's-
assume
I
it's
think it's the
going to
slope that
be.
Yeah.
There's
But-
many a trucks that have been up and down that road, and the biggest truck you're gonna get is one of those dump trucks.
Yeah.
I don't know, fire truck is not gonna be, you know,
Yeah, pretty big, but.
Right.
it's long.
I don't know that a fire company would bring the truck up there anywhere. I mean, I hear that a lot. You know, they just won't, they don't risk it. That truck could just come right down the
I think
hill.
the applicant stipulated
Yeah,
to
I-
be willing to ask the question.
Yeah, I think we heard,
There.
the applicant stipulated to asking the question and getting advice, so I think that's all we can really require at this point in time,
Okay.
without any further.
Other questions or
I
comments?
was
or-
only gonna ask to clarify that the drawing showed the roadway 10 foot plus minus, but it's 12 foot is what you're saying?
I think we heard 12 to 15 is what we heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just get in different points along the driveway. That measurement on the plan is taken at the most narrow point.
Oh.
The easement shows 10 foot wide, but the driveway is much wider than that in most places. 10-foot
Right.
was never gonna be pragmatic there anyway.
Right.
I only looked at the note on the drawing.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah, no,
question. I
when they
am not
redo the
visiting
easement,
there.
they'll grab the wider driveway as it is now. Because there's a turn off, you'll notice the easement doesn't show any kind of, usually when you do a long driveway like this, you have to have some sort of bypass or a turn off. So you'll see at the bottom of the turn, it widens substantially there for that reason. Stuff like that was probably built
Yeah,
into it.
There's right, there's no.
The easement
turnaround.
never
It's
catches it,
so
though.
typical. That's why I asked, yeah.
There are bypass spots on the
Any additional
None of you visited the site?
deliberations?
Sure.
Sorry, yeah, the board is discussing. Thanks. Has anyone else have any comments or deliberations for this application?
I'm good.
I would just say it's a story and a half ranch house, so there's not a massing issue with this. You know, it's 2.5 stories. It's totally within character, hardy board siding. The roofing material, from what I see on the plans, will all be in character for Bernard's Township. As far as the orientation of the house, I agree with Tom that it precludes you from probably a C1 because you created your own hardship, but it makes more sense as you explained it to me. Pulling up the driveway, seeing the front of that house, and having the flat area behind the house just makes more sense to me. So I would be in agreement with you on the orientation of the home.
And the impervious coverage is far under the requirements. I mean, I'm looking for the
It's like
thing now. I want to say it's at like,
6 or 7%.
6 or 7%, and the impervious coverage allotment is like 15%. I mean, you're far under the impervious coverage, so the size of the house really could be much bigger.
Yeah, that's the way I was thinking. It's a single-family home. I do think the house is, the size of the house doesn't bother me at all, especially on this large 3-acre lot, although it is a very steep, it's a very steep road. Obviously, we are all well familiar with Long Road. So the size of the house does not bother me.
It's a 2,500 square foot house. I mean, we see houses with footprints bigger than that all the time.
Yeah.
On
This is a
smaller
one-story
lots.
house.
On smaller lots, right?
That's
On
right.
On much smaller lots.
Much smaller.
And I did try to visit the house today, but I couldn't find it. I found 61, but there was no marking, and I didn't want to drive up somebody's driveway. and
My
didn't know
sign's a
where I was
little
going.
higher.
Yeah.
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 I was up,
Stephanie's
I
lower,
went up and
mine's
down that road
higher,
twice, and I
it's a
couldn't
little
find it. But I had a lot of cars behind me too, and I couldn't really drive slow enough to figure it out.
And I have a lot of experience in development, and we do a lot on Google Earth and Google Maps and Bing Maps and all kinds of projects where we can, we buy properties in Florida, and we live here in New Jersey, so we have a lot of experience looking at property without actually visiting it.
Same.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion on this application?
Do you want, Madam Chair,
Yes.
would you like me to go through the conditions?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, that would be great.
Okay. Better my keep here. All right. All right, so most of these are pulled from the professionals memorandums, but there are a few that we added, throughout the hearing. First, the tree replacement plan, I believe that was stipulated too, is, what else? Okay, revised plans to show the silt fence limit. The driveway easement on lot 14 is going to be corrected, and they're going to get that either through consent of the adjacent property owner, or they're going to go to court and have that established to reflect the current configuration of the driveway. Stream buffer easement, they're going to get that, I believe that was along the driveway as well. The revised general note 4 on the floor plans. All the other boilerplate type conditions on the planner's memo, that was numbers 13 through 18. Expand the limit of disturbance. We had that from Mr. Quinn's memorandum, an additional 10 feet. I believe they've already accomplished that, but we'll include it as a condition anyway, just to the extent not already satisfied.
That, while you're on that point,
Yeah.
the amount of disturbance in the 25% slope area is gonna be 686 square feet.
686, I got that, thank you. Then further plan revisions as highlighted in Mr. Quinn's memorandum. And then the additional ones we imposed during the hearing, no blasting related to the proposal. They're going to repair that detached garage structure, and we set some parameters that are a little more specific as opposed to just simply saying repair it. That includes repairing the roof, repairing the sides, re-siding, and painting the exterior in a manner that's aesthetically consistent with the principal dwelling. And then finally, the applicant's going to talk to the fire official for advice on fire safety, though it won't necessarily be binding just because they may not have jurisdiction over this particular property. And I believe that's it unless some.
Can you repeat that, what repair of the garage meant?
Right, so repairing the detached garage structure, and I'll spell this out in the resolution. We have three aspects to that, as we established. One is repairing the roof, two is repairing the siding, and three is painting the exterior to be aesthetically consistent with the principal dwelling. And that's going to remain subject to the review and approval of our board planner and engineer. If I'm not sure who would be the better person for it, but I'll say both.
I don't typically do that. Do you want me to do it?
You can do it if you want.
I have license over.
Want it both?
I think
you both should do it. Yeah.
I have license now. Yes.
Okay.
I'm happy to do it.
We'll say both of you guys. Thank you. And yeah, so that was it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, those were the suggested stipulations that I think I heard the applicant agree to if we were to approve
Right.
or recommend approving this application.
Did you say repair the siding?
Yeah.
There's siding on the garage?
There is no siding on this garage.
I believe you said he was going to re-side it.
No, he said he was going to paint it.
Oh, paint it, okay. Well, my
He said he was gonna
apologies.
paint it.
Okay, okay, so we're painting the exterior, okay. My apologies for that. I could have sworn he said re-side it.
It's like a stucco on it.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Cambria.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so only two conditions,
Okay.
two
Thank you.
sub-aspects to the repairing the garage.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, thank you.
Any motions on this one?
Do we have, is there any, do we have any right to require any repair to the foundation? If there are cracks in the foundation?
I think that's the building department.
Building department?
Yeah, that would be building code, yeah.
So that's all building code, and that's their jurisdiction, they'll handle it?
That is structurally sound, is what we're
Yeah.
saying. That's
They're not
what
gonna
we're
look at
asking.
Yeah. Okay, just a thought,
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
sorry.
Dave, is that the case? Like, it's a
build-
structure that's standing, the roof is
Yeah.
kind of partially collapsed, I mean,
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty bad for the building department to cite him with a
Yeah.
violation. I don't know
I think
the
it's still
details,
standing
but
now, and
but I
he
mean, if they're
said he's
gonna,
gonna fix
if they're
it.
gonna rebuild roof structure, which.
They'll need to get a permit
Yeah,
for
they have
it,
to
and
go
the
Yeah, then-
construction
then
office
it's
will
gonna be
review
inspected,
Right,
for
it's gonna
right.
be controlled.
whatever they look
Right.
at. It'll have to be up to code.
Right.
I don't know what all that entails, but they'll need a permit to do a roof.
Okay. Any motions on this? One?
I'll let you do it, Tim.
Okay, I'll do it. So I would make a motion that we move to deem this application complete and that we grant the variances that were seen with all the stipulations that we just went through. I tend to think that this is a C2 variance. I think that it meets some of the positive and negative criteria. I definitely think having the house situated this way and having that backyard, that the benefits of that outweigh the detriments, and I make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Cambria. I would just say, I think it qualifies under C1 and C2. There are some C2 aspects to it, but I think there's a reason that we see so many applications along Long Road, because it is such a unique topography. It is so steep. All the lots are bizarre shapes. So we've seen so many applications around here, so there's definitely a C1 aspect to it. I agree that the house could have been slightly, oriented differently, and that's why I think it qualifies under both C1 and C2. Personally, I'm very happy when we see lots redone along Long Road, and especially this one. I think it will benefit the entire block and the entire neighborhood. I think the house looks quite nice, and I think the one-level structure with the walkout basement is well-suited to this particular lot. You know, as is the house size itself. I think the lot can definitely accommodate it.
Yeah, I'll second the motion, but I agree. I think the one-story aspect of the house makes it less visual. You know, it's got a bigger footprint possibly, but 2,500 square feet is not that big a footprint.
Yeah.
But the one-story aspect makes it fit more into the hillside and the naturalness of the property.
And I appreciate that the applicants, you know, working with the neighbors in terms of the buffering and stipulating to making some repairs on that garage and putting it, you know, in a more aesthetically pleasing condition.
So I second it.
Okay. Cindy?
Ms. Baumann?
Yes.
Mr. Cambria?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Pavlovsky?
Yes.
Ms. Pakhtar?
Yes.
Mr. Tancredi?
Yes.
Chairwoman Janeers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck with your
Congratulations.
project.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody's time. Sorry you had to be there this late.
No, no, that's our job.
Thank you.
Board members, may I have a copy of what was submitted by the opposition?
I'm sorry, what, Ms. Kiefer, what?
Yeah, I need copies of what was submitted as exhibit.
Oh, geez, take them all.
Look at you all.
Unusual to stick around that long.
Good evening.
Take care.
Solemn session. Go to the audience.
I've got them, thank you.
Oh, I thought you needed them all. You don't.
No, I just need one of each so that I can mark them as exhibits.
All right, let's keep going here.
I know.
Hey, I asked them.
I don't know.
Annual report, number 9.
Oh, sorry. A little lost words here.
Get it back here.
Did you take mine?
I'll give you yours back. Take mine.
Okay. Moving right along.
All right.
Number 9 is 2021 annual report and recommendations. I think we talked about it at one of the other meetings. We talked about possibly doing some recommendations.
It's here somewhere.
Okay.
Yes, what Steve relayed to me was that what you guys are presented with is the report itself, and if you wanted to make recommendations, we could draw that up separately. Obviously, we'd have to come back and vote on the annual report at a subsequent meeting with those recommendations attached, or, you know, as one document. So, ultimately, up to the board.
Okay.
to do that.
Yes.
Since we're working on the 2021 report, we already have all the data for 2020.
Yeah, I agree. We should move forward.
We do the same thing we did last year.
That's right.
Which says something like, let's monitor the lot coverage. And we have everything to just go to 2022 report and.
I agree with that completely. Thank you, Mr. Sy. So the recommendation is that we don't have any official recommendations at this time, and again, this is for 2021, but we're going to continue to monitor the lot coverage.
Something like that last time.
Okay,
Yeah, makes sense.
okay. So can
We keep
close
saying
that
that,
point?
though, and I never.
I know, but we're
nothing ever
already on
happens.
22, so we can do it for 22.
Okay, we can't.
It's 21.
Can I just make a comment on it? I mean, after reviewing some of it, you know, it's 8 out of 32, but then how many were actually completed outside of our variances? So there might have been people that did all these projects, right, put pools in, there's 500 pools put in. We only saw, I'm just making up a number, we only saw maybe 5 of them, 6 of them, 8 of them that had to give them variances. So that kind of gives you a picture of how many actually came here compared to how many were actually permitted and built.
That's a good
And it
point.
kind of
That's a very good thing
gives
to
me
know,
a
yeah.
different perspective on
Good point.
what we really would need to look at or not look at when,
I can tell you,
Yeah.
we get a huge spike in the rear building on full thing in 2021.
Yeah, right after
So,
COVID.
Yeah, big
That was
surprise.
crazy.
And it was back down, it's still high, but it was 7 or 8 in 2022.
Right.
And before, in 2020, it was the same 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It literally doubled and came back down.
Yeah.
So it was a huge spike. We still see a lot of them, but I'm pretty sure the construction was.
I'm not asking for a lot more work, I'm just asking it,
No, it's a
from
really
a
good
perspective of stating it, we might be looking at a really big number, and only seeing a small percentage of what the public actually does in our community, and it just helps us understand a little bit more of,
Yeah, I will say, I put a pool in during that period, and we killed ourselves to not be over on lot coverage. I mean, I put in an open wood deck instead of putting paving around it, and a grassed area, and then I listened to people
We
coming in
appreciate
here who say they have to have these things.
Thank you.
You don't have to have these things.
No,
You really don't.
No, no,
And,
it's,
you know,
we are mindful
They
that,
just think they're due it, and
Yeah,
that's not
I
quite
know.
right either.
yep. Yeah. I'm okay.
I just didn't want to go through the headache
Yeah.
of it, to be honest
No.
with you.
I agree with you, Ms. Packer.
And I'm
We
really happy
keep
with the wood
talking
deck, actually.
about these cases, and it's not even just the number of cases we see, even the deliberations amongst ourselves
Yeah.
on these overage issues. So it remains a very big issue, so I think, we'll make that comment associated with 2021 and say that we're monitoring it for 2022 and forward,
Okay.
and we'll
So
see if we can
one
address
very
it in
minor revision
2022,
on that
okay?
point.
You okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right. Comments from members? Any comments from members? I think we have to talk about some of the forward meetings, and I appreciate everybody who had responded with extra dates, because we were trying to think about our forward applications and trying to do them as efficiently as possible, both for the public and for the board. So Cindy, do you want to just review the dates that we have kind of earmarked going forward? So first of all, March 16 is canceled. Okay, so everybody should know that. Last time we asked you to circle that one up. We have officially canceled the March 16th meeting.
It's already been done. The applicant has decided to move forward and to get rid of the jurisdictional.
They're going to
issue.
renotice.
They're going to go, they're going to move forward and begin their presentation again. That said, May 3rd, May 11th, and June 7th are earmarked to hear a signature. I am working with William Annan Middle School right now to secure the auditorium. We cannot get the high school PAC. So those 3 meetings so far are going to be heard there. We're earmarking June 15th to handle some of our smaller applications like this evening. I have one already, and I have at least 2 to 3 that are about ready to be submitted, so.
Right, so we don't know definitively the signature schedule, but we were guessing, and so we held those 3
Well,
meetings.
Right, they were very, very specific in their letter to us that they wanted us to schedule their hearings in as much a consecutive order as we possibly could.
Yeah.
So I felt, we felt that moving through June is about as far out as we could go.
Yeah, and look, we're mindful of asking everybody to waive in the special meetings, but I think it's a lot more efficient, quite honestly, I'll speak for myself, for the board, to hear complex cases in a more concise and consolidated manner, and I think it'll be more useful for the public, who we know is very interested in that application, which is why we're securing William Annan. I think Cindy and I are going to take a trip to make sure our microphones work and everything else.
Working
Yeah,
on it.
no, it's okay. So, yeah, that's why we kind of crunched it together when we moved signature to our regular meeting and maybe some of the other applications to the 15th, because we're also mindful of the other applications. We don't want to push them off indefinitely. We want to be able to hear them as well. So hopefully that schedule, holds. I know that some of the board members can't make all of those meetings, but especially the ones that are going to be focused on signature. We're going to make sure that the tapes are ready to be rewatched or heard, or however we're going to tape them, such that if you need to miss one of those meetings, we're going to ask you to please, if you can, review that, so that when we get to the deliberation portion, you'll be able to vote.
Are you talking about the prior meetings? Or Meetings that are done.
the meetings that are going to
Okay.
come. Because we already know that some board members cannot make all the dates.
Right, okay, because from what I understand, they're basically starting over.
They are starting over,
Right,
yep.
so,
No, but on the forward dates that we know that are coming, we already know that the board
okay.
will not be,
Madam Chair, are we going to take a vote this evening on accepting the annual report?
yes.
Okay.
Before we leave the schedule, though, we don't have anything scheduled for April 13th, correct? So no special meeting? or-
There's no special meeting.
Right.
The
We'll
applicant
wait
could
until the
not-
April meeting to see if we cancel that, but as of right now,
As of right now, there's
we haven't
nothing on
asked
there.
anybody to hold
Okay.
that date.
Well, the applicant was very, very specific in stating that for religious reasons. none of
Yep,
the
signature
dates-
specifically couldn't, but we don't have anybody else
Oh, right.
who's going to do that. And then I will also, unfortunately, I cannot attend April 5th meeting. I'll send you an email to that. Mr. Tancredi is going to be at the helm. He's going to, so my paycheck can go to
God bless you.
Mrs. Tancredi for that night.
Big money now.
Yeah, there you go.
You get catered that one?
Okay. So, sorry, let's go backwards and just do that. Can we do the vote on?
Yeah. Cindy, did anyone from my office provide you with a resolution adopting the report? That never came through?
don't. You know,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you want to, I don't have anything with it unless
Yeah.
it's
Should we
with
just
the
make a
original
motion
packet.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's been, at least
Hang on.
what I've dealt with, it's always been memorialized in a resolution. I suppose the board could adopt it tonight and then adopt a subsequent resolution memorializing the prior adoption.
I don't think we got a resolution.
No.
We didn't get one, I didn't think so.
Oh, there always is one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Should we push it to the next meeting, or should we?
if you guys don't mind pushing it off to the next meeting to be safe, and I
Okay.
apologize, I don't know how we
One more meeting.
didn't get that done. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I gotta incorporate the minor comments anyway, so,
Thank you.
yeah, it kinda works out.
Perfectly.
All right, any other comments or questions from members? Any other comments from staff? Cindy, did we miss anything?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay.
I'm having a little bit of an issue shutting down the meeting with this tablet, so when we do adjourn.
We're not adjourned.
talking about things we
Fine.
have to do, we'll get-
Yeah.
Thank you for the
What
warning.
makes you think we're gonna have things
No,
to
no,
say tonight?
tonight was, that,
Yeah, this was a smooth meeting.
I
What are you
actually,
talking
yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Bellman. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I appreciate all.
Good job.
Well,
Good job.
I felt you should be the one doing this.
Good job.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, me too.
I'm here on St. Patrick's Eve. You get ready early.
Actually, it's funny you say that now, because all of a sudden, your friends who moved from Jersey City to Amherst, they're going back this weekend. So now it matters.
Closed off yet?
No, I, send a text to our IT guy, because the tablet won't wake up. You're supposed to, it's a touch screen. I don't know where that came from.
Did you guys know we had a bomb?
It's usually not sitting there. It's usually not sitting here. I don't know where it came from.
There's nothing in it, it just says Holy Bible on the outside.
Is there no gun in there?
But I will tell IT, guys, I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
And thank you for your comments about Gary.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it's gonna be. It's just, yeah. So.
Thank you, though.
Good night, everyone.
I wish you could have signed an addition for him.
I know. Thank you. I know. Yeah, especially since both of the boards are Madam Chair. Dave, if you would just